Big Show with Jim Csek and Iain Burns.
Good morning from coast to coast. I'm Jim Csek with Iain Burns. Beautiful day here in the Okanagan. Blue skies. Blue skies. This is a blue sky day. No smoke in the air. No wildfires yet around here other than the one that went out a couple days ago. Nation's capital. Here's our weather report here. Here's our weather girl, our weather man.
It's horrible. Very, very rainy. There was a tornado warning earlier, but that didn't materialize. But it's just grim. Doesn't feel like summer.
I did see that. I wonder if the Tin Man and the Straw Man there, the Scarecrow and the Lion, are looking for cover as they look for their brains there and their courage in Ottawa. Our headline this morning, though, our theme mostly, manufacturing majority threatens Canadian freedoms. And so many bills, so many things, and all with a manufactured majority. And we do have a constitutional lawyer going to join us at 11:30. I think we're going to save that. We're going to put that one in the can, I think, though, for when Iain and I are off. So just to let everybody know, Iain and I will be off next week. Iain's getting a haircut. Look at that beautiful mane he's got there. He's getting a haircut. His family's actually visiting from the Big Island, the motherland. And I am heading off to the United States of America for a little road trip there. I'm going to check things out. I'll probably maybe even try to do some comments back. Like maybe we'll try to do small lives or something to show what's going on, to show the prices there and so much anger I guess. I don't think there's going to be any, but just to show that, we're still accepted down there. Lots more Canadians.
There'll be anger from the Canadian viewers when they see you tuck into an In-N-Out burger, and they know that they can't take part.
In-N-Out burgers in Oregon now, and lots more opening up in Oregon, Idaho now, Nevada, spreading out the In-N-Out burger. Some of the best burgers ever, spreading throughout the United States of America. Simple stuff. That's the thing. Simple stuff. We're going to show you some of that stuff later too. The simpler, the better. An In-N-Out burger, if you've never had one, wait till you do.
Book your flight now.
Book your flight now. But the Canadian outlook, I'm saying that there's some blue sky, some blue spots there, but we're still in the way of it. But just that there's so much power underneath our feet there. It has that G7 actually was good for Canada, I believe, because there was some pressure from the world itself for Canada to release its resources. We're going to show you some of that pushback against it as well. But there was pressure from the world leaders to like Canada, get out of your own way. We're going to show you some of the feedback here, though. We do appreciate feedback. And someone says they love our show, always on point. Thank you for that. And Iain, this one here is good for you. Have classic Gaelic visage. Close eyes set, deep
I guess
eyes,
that's true.
Gaelic nose, blonde hair. I don't know. At one time, maybe.
I think when I was very, very young, it had a kind of slightly blonde quality. Yeah.
And then says your wit and commentary are also replicated traits. I would say your sarcasm is right in there too. A couple other people says we're the odd couple. You remember that show, The Odd Couple?
I mean, not in an intimate fashion, but yeah, I'm aware of it.
I don't know which one I am in The Odd Couple. I'm probably the old guy, I guess, right? And somebody loving your hair always, right? There you go. What are they going to do?
I would say that it's fascinating that this woman here says, replication of my family and my own from the west coast of Ireland, and talks about County Mayo, which is where Mark Carney also traces his heritage back to. But the bordering county in Ireland called Sligo, that's where at least some of my Irish family or ancestry comes from. Sligo and Ulster. So this Owen McCafferty, she knows her onions there. I think that's quite impressive just to do that on site. That's quite admirable. And I've also had the DNA test done, and seen all the Irishness and all the Gaelic, Celtic, or whatever. Although that's, not to get too into the weeds, but the Irish population, believe it or not, doesn't actually have all that much Celtic DNA. But that's another story. Maybe we can do a 5-hour special on Ireland's ancient DNA.
Someone said you have gain-of-function hair. Blessed with Fauci.
Like, does Fauci have that as well? Let's have a look at Fauci's hair.
Not so much.
He's got quite good hair, actually, considering.
I would say about Ian's hair, this is my comment. It leaves many of us wanting. How's that?
Not Justin, though. Justin leaves me wanting.
No. Justin looks like a fool. There you go. Trump is vindicated Iain Burns. Iain got a little bit of heat. We took a little bit of heat on the channel there when Iain said that it wasn't, the victory that Trump had hoped for. But here's Mr. Trump, President Trump himself.
I know that. Now, if I did the opposite, if I went out and continued to bomb them for another 4, just bomb the hell out of them, I'd get bad press on that. No, there's nothing I can do. But what this does is it allows the ships to go. If we keep bombing, those ships won't be going. And you're talking about $500, $600, $700 million a day. It's a lot of money, a lot of money. That's why the world is okay. It's liquid, it's fine. Also, we run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. There are reserves all over the world, and we would really run out. And there'll be a time when you wouldn't be able to get it. And you want to see bedlam? So for all those so-called geniuses that want to show me how smart they are, ask them why didn't they blow up General Soleimani? Ask that of the general and a couple of other people that I like very much, but boy, are they wrong. Go ahead. How about you?
So, I mean, the one thing about Trump is he's willing to change his mind on things. We see him change his mind all the time. And he's making the best of the situation, really. I mean, that he weighed the consequences of what's going on and said that energy is more important. Plus, he's got midterms coming up. I mean, he needs to get out of that quagmire before midterms. That's obvious. And I think he's going to be more willing to make deals even with Canada, because right now he needs to go into midterms looking like a hero. He needs to get the gasoline prices down, and he needs to make the American worker look like they're number one. And that's much better than we're having a situation in Canada, because he's going to put the American people first, and you're going to see that play out here. And energy is so important. And,
And then on that note, apparently, if the commentary coming out of the United States is to be believed from the big newspapers in America, he's turning to J.D. Vance to bail him out of this quagmire. And apparently this is like Vance's file. He's going to try and rescue the Trump presidency from this Iran mess.
We're going to show you a clip of that right now. Well, in a couple of seconds here, but here's a clip of the president in Versailles. He's there with Macron man, the macaroni man, and he signed the documents there.
It's absolutely, I mean, it's so strange. It's called the 14 Points, and it was signed in Versailles. History, not even history nerds, just history people who know a little bit about history will immediately be thinking of Woodrow Wilson's 14 Points and the Treaty of Versailles at the end of the First World War. Weird how, I think, was it Karl Marx? I don't know if it was Karl Marx said, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. I think that's a Marx quote. That is very apt, isn't it? That's such a historical rhyme there.
But here's J.D. Vance selling it as a victory. Here we go.
I think the president's peace plan in Iran is already bearing real fruits for the American people. Last night, 12.5 million barrels of oil went through the Strait of Hormuz. That is a high since the beginning of the conflict. Oil prices are down nearly at their level from the pre-war conflict. Gas prices dropped below $4 a gallon today for the first time since the conflict. And importantly, they're going to keep falling further given how low oil prices are. On the military side, the Iranians, for the second night in a row, did not shoot at any ships in the Strait of Hormuz. So far, they are honoring their end of the commitment. And on the blockade, CENTCOM has allowed north of a dozen ships to go through our naval blockade, and so we're also honoring our end of the early part of the agreement. I think.
So there you go. And that's why J.D. Vance is likely going on all kinds of outlets right now too, including The View and different things, because he needs to speak to the American voters that don't listen to Fox and different channels. And that's what the Liberals here miss, and the NDP. They only go on their echo chamber, and they won't come on here. There's an open invitation. Like, well, if Mark Carney called in right now, we'd interrupt the show and we'd put him on. How's that? Even if Jolie called in, we'd take Melanie Jolie and we'd put our other stuff aside. That's how willing we are. Champagne? Well, maybe champagne. Kidding. We'd take champagne. And maybe not so much for Gary.
But they don't have that interest. They're not interested in... It's funny. They might talk about things like Canadian unity and reaching across to other people and all the rest of it, but they're not really interested in that at all, are they? They don't. That's just not something that happens in this country. Pierre Poilievre does it. Pierre Poilievre does appear on left-wing and liberal affiliated media like CBC and CTV.
Sure does.
And others. He does that quite a lot, actually. So he quite admirably does try to reach partisan outlets from the other side. But the Liberals, no, I'm really struggling to think of any examples of that. Frankly, I really can't.
Well, we're going to work hard at getting some Americans on. Ian and I are planning to go to Washington as well, just to prove to the Liberals and the NDP that we can get them on this show before they will come on here. Isn't that, it's wild. I can bet dollars to donuts that we're going to be successful in that regard. Here's a little clip of somebody that got their transponders on and showing you some of the traffic there in the Strait of Hormuz. And it looks pretty busy in there. Come on, there's...
Yeah. I mean, there are a few ways to try and argue that this is potentially some kind of masterstroke by the Trump administration. I've heard a couple. The most convincing ones are it gets him through the midterms, and then he can go all in and slap Iran like you've never seen before. I mean, I don't find that one immensely persuasive, but
yeah,
that is one of them.
Or
and then there is another one actually. I've already forgotten what it is. There is another one that's a little bit more persuasive.
Or we just move on, and just leave it as it is, and hopefully it holds. And the price of oil, agreeing with it though. Price of oil, 74 this morning. West Texas Intermediate right now, 74.62. That's the lowest it's been in a long time, right? Like since this started. So 74.62. Western Canadian Select right now, 64.44. You know what I mean? And Ian and I talked about this. Canada's opportunity, if they don't get off their hiney, is going to miss the opportunity. They should be signing long-term contracts right now and selling futures contracts for some of this oil when the prices are higher. Because when Venezuela oil comes on full stream, if Iran gets their oil out into the open markets and they settle in Russia, Ian said that yesterday, they settle in Russia, and UAE gets that other pipeline, and you know, like everybody else is pushing their oil. And then we're going to show you some of the lunatics have risen up here in Canada to try and block everything as well. So it's good. Opportunity only knocks, right? And you have to be ready for opportunity. That's the thing. Opportunity favors the prepared mind. I'm sure you've heard that saying many times. You must be prepared for the opportunity when it shows up. And we're not. We didn't have a pipeline. Just imagine if we had that pipeline to the Northwest Coast right now. Opportunity favors the prepared. Just stop right there. Favors the prepared. And we weren't prepared. Here's Donald Trump on... What's that? Yeah, obviously
just obviously not prepared. Obviously not. And yet the promise was, we're going to figure it out this time. We're going to be sensible this time. We're not going to be stupid like all the previous times. We're going to build at speeds we didn't even think were possible. Engage. It was like an episode of Star Trek, wasn't it? That was, how long ago now? 18 months ago when he first started to talk like that? About 18 months ago. Where are we now? You know, what a shame.
Yeah, and then somebody just said Ukraine just hit Moscow. I have that later on in the feed here, but that'll put pressure on Russia to actually finish this thing as well too, because I don't think it's going to get ugly before it gets better. So, at this point, if there's a deal on the table and he has, the Americans willing to like settle this for them, it might be better off for Russia to settle this now when it doesn't have a bloodier nose. Trump on the USMCA. Listen to this.
How long do you hope USMCA negotiations or review go on?
Well, it's not something that's, to me, I think it's better without it. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of it. I liked it because it got us out of NAFTA. In other words, after 6 years, you had a clause that got us out of NAFTA. That's the thing I liked about it most. We do better without an agreement.
Do you want to just leave it enrolling?
I would rather leave it unsigned. I'd rather have it terminated.
You'd rather have it terminated? Those are different things, sir. I just want to be clear.
I would rather not have the agreement, but I may sign it.
Right.
But we do better as a country if we don't have an agreement.
So are you thinking of...
Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe we won't be able to make a deal. I would rather not have the USMCA. The primary reason I wanted it was because there was no way out of NAFTA, which was the worst trade agreement ever made, like ever. And they had no termination. And it was very hard to get USMCA for that reason. And I had a 6-year clause. Who would have thought I would have been here in the 6 years? They got it 6 years because they hoped I wouldn't be here. My term was supposed to be over with. So on top of everything else, it comes to, I would prefer not having an agreement, but I'm open to doing it. We'll see what happens.
So as of now, it's just going to stick around for 10 years. You're okay
We're
with
not,
that?
no, it's not sticking around. It'll be terminated. In other words,
after a decade.
it expires.
Yeah, in a decade.
It expires.
Yeah.
I prefer that.
In the first paragraph,
I view it as possibly expiring immediately.
in the first paragraph of the first.
There's a lot of Canadian media outlets like losing their minds about, it doesn't expire, it doesn't expire. Well, I mean, you and I had Tracy Gray on and talked about the agreement too. There's a clause in there that they can exercise. So
Might need Congress to actually properly get rid of it, but the executive has so many weird little powers that most people don't even know about, and you literally won't know about them till they're exercised on that day. So I think the executive, in other words, Donald Trump, if he chose to, could kill CUSMA without Congress, but sort of in effect, even if it's still there, sort of de jure.
Well,
I mean, still
just
theoretically exists. He could find ways to kill it, but I just don't understand what I have no idea what he said there. I mean, I would almost like to give him the response that he gave Joe Biden that time, where it's like, I don't have any idea what he just said there. I don't think he does either. Like I seriously don't know what that was about. It's almost like saying I'm considering breaking off the engagement, but I'll still say I do and get married. Yeah, I'm still I'll still
maybe
do it.
possibly.
I just don't understand, but I guess that's the Trump style, isn't it? He wants to keep people in the dark,
but I mean, realistically, Mexico and Canada wouldn't be at the table if there's not a way out. I mean, they would say, well, we'll just leave it as it is. But that's not what they're doing.
Well, you're also getting different messages from different people, and when you look at Congress, you look at the sort of Republican senators and representatives, they're saying quite different things about this. And then there's been a bit of a divorce between the business groups and the Republican Party for probably obvious reasons that people can figure out themselves. But the ones that are still associated with the Republican Party and with Trump, they are also saying like they're desperate for a deal and for certainty on CUSMA. So, I mean, a lot of people that form the base of the Republican Party and literally are in the Republican Party and important figures in the Republican Party are saying very different things than Trump is saying. But like I said, that's probably something Trump's quite happy with. He likes there to be ambiguity and mystery, doesn't he? Well,
Canada and Mark Carney don't realize that they have a secret weapon there. And she's on tour right now peddling her book. As she said here in this Women in Business Summit. It was a pleasure to be in London. Like, I can't believe she's out there peddling her book and still has not done a sit-down interview, even with the government mouthpieces here, and held accountable. Come, Christia, come on here. We'll let you sell your book. We'll even buy a copy each. How's that? We'll even buy 2 copies. That'll put you up there on the list. And she goes on to say that she's taken responsibility for the establishment of $10 daycare. You get that, don't you?
Who doesn't? Who doesn't get $10 a day daycare? Literally, it's all anyone ever talks about is how great it is to get $10 a day daycare.
How come you're not
Miracle.
getting it? How come you're not getting it?
You know, my mistake. I think I didn't do the right thing. Somehow, it was something to do with my. This is my problem. I mean, it wouldn't be the Liberals. They promised. So.
But here's the most important part in here. She says as well as how to strike a deal with Trump. That's her secret weapon. She knows how to strike a deal with Trump. Why don't they call her back up? See if she can do it again. She did such a great job last time.
She did a great job of almost completely screwing it up for Canada and then having to run at the last minute and say, whatever you want, we'll sign it. Just don't lock us out, please.
She knows how to grovel.
Our good comrade, well, he's not much of a good comrade, but, you know, any name. Our associate there, our commenter. He's saying that I'm wrong because the Labour unions don't want CUSMA. I didn't mention Labour unions, did I, chum? You've got the benefit of being able to rewind. You can just rewind and listen to what I said. I said business groups. Business groups aren't the same as unions, obviously. Famously, they're not the same thing.
Definitely manufacturing and labor groups want the trade tariffs. They've shown it. Like, they've opened steel factories. They're getting manufacturing jobs. There's a lot more jobs, like high-paying jobs happening in the United States right now. And so they're
well, this is the thing. When I was listening to what's his name on The View, J.D. Vance, and he's talking about his upbringing and being from a steel town or whatever it is in Ohio, and talking about his dad and what his dad did. He is just like, biographically, you listen to him, it's like he's a classic Democrat. He would have been a Democrat in ordinary circumstances, but he represents that shift of the blue collar and also unionized worker away from the Democrats to the Republican Party.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, labor unions and just the blue collar workers in general have certainly come over to the Republican side quite amazingly.
And it's the same thing happening here in Canada with the Conservative Party. It used to be the Liberal Party was the protector of the labor. That's not the case here. It's the Conservatives now that have the ear. Look at what the NDP did with the BC ferries. Shameful.
But even another really fascinating one is there was some estimate made on the, by ethnicity, the vote in 2025 by ethnicity, and the Conservatives, I think, were ahead overall in non-white Canadians, but certainly lots of ethnic groups that aren't white Canadian or whatever the name of that group is. They back the Tories over the Liberals. Like, the Liberals, fascinating to see, like, the extent to which they rely on old whitey.
You know, because,
obviously they're aiming for the older population. The older population in Canada is like way more white, obviously.
But it's also the federal employees, provincial employees, the government employees heavily favor the Liberal Party, heavily, and NDP, depending on the province and when they're voting. And also the elitists, the Laurentian elite, and the very rich favor it, and the lobby groups. I mean, they favor the Liberals because they have the ear. They have access to the purse. But this photo here is kind of like, a lot of people are playing this photo up here is not very good for Canada's position in this. You know, like, there's Mark Carney in the background there. Even I'm pretty sure Modi is not part of the G7 yet. He got front row.
Yeah, the Modster. And also, is that guy from Pakistan the one on Trump's right?
On Trump, I believe so. Yeah.
To his right, so our left. I think that's the Pakistani leader.
Keir Starmer also got back row, so the two Starmer and Carney got the small heads in the back there.
Terrible, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Keir Starmer just looks like a lost bureaucrat, like somebody that works at the train station or something. He's just like, what's going on? Is this a photograph?
But this is even more hilarious. You know, when Trump was in the UN, when he did a speech and they turned off the escalator, or he accused them of turning off the escalator just to kind of make him, and he said it could have hurt Melania and that, and then the teleprompter didn't work, and he's like, so here he is here, and he's saying, like, somebody lowered his chair, and then, it doesn't work to go back up. Listen to this. This is hilarious.
Yeah, the mod stuff. And also, is that guy from Pakistan the one on Trump's right?
Keir Starmer also got back row, so the two Starmer and Carney got the small heads in the back there.
Terrible, that, isn't it?
I got to move around.
I'm down on the ground. Oh, clear. You must be.
Isn't that thing working?
It's too late. They got it.
I got the Donald.
Did you get it up?
Oh, you moved the chair?
You can.
Up at the general's chair. He had it.
Yeah, it is inspired.
Then you look at yourself in a picture and you say, what happened?
What happened?
I had the lowest rate in all over.
You know what?
Wait.
It was the UN.
Oh, is that it?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You remember? That's funny. Oh, that's much better. It's so funny.
Oh, that's much better.
Thank you, Mark. I'll remember.
There you go. So Sam Altman not so quick to exchange seats.
Well,
with
he's
him,
probably upset that he had his thigh slapped by the president.
but Mark Carney swaps him a chair.
That's some prime butt licking. That's pretty impressive.
Well,
Pretty impressive display.
and you know what? Maybe if it does good for Canada, great. Do you know what I mean? Like if that's what it takes, and if he remembers that and he says, "Hey, that guy brought me a chair," and it's like pulling a thorn out of his paw, great.
If only he adopted that attitude from the beginning, you know, and
Instead
when
of
he was giving
sticking the
speech, he
thorns
said,
in, right?
I will give President Trump my chair. I'll help him because that's how important. Like, if only that was the attitude rather than, you know, Trump Hitler's gonna invade Canada and create the Fourth Reich and, you know, get ready for the Panzer divisions to enter Montreal tomorrow. Strange idea that that's what he was thinking, and he thought that he could play it both ways, didn't he? He thought he could manipulate naive people in Canada and make them think that there was some sort of serious issue with America that could have led potentially to violence. They're going to break us so they can take us. Is that what it was? So they can own us. Yeah, that was it. He thought that he could do that, fool the sort of Canadians, gullible Canadians who don't know any better. And meanwhile, he thought the Americans wouldn't pick up on this. They're either just not going to watch, or they'll watch and they'll understand what I'm doing. They'll get it. They'll see what I'm up to. Alas, it doesn't really work like that, does it, Marky boy?
I just don't know how the Elbows Up group are processing this. Like, how do they process this? Like, how do they square these? You know, because Mark Carney here was way he should be. Like, if he was acting like this for the 13 months, we wouldn't be in this predicament right now. We wouldn't be here.
Talk about elbows up. Who's the only person that I've seen that's experienced elbows up is Donald Trump, just there, when he got his elbows literally elevated by a new chair that Mark Carney gave to him. So is that elbows up? Donald Trump's elbows will increase in altitude.
Did you hear Carney's joke because he gave him the chair too? What's a UN thing? He said it's a UN thing. Because at the UN, Trump accused them of shutting off his teleprompter.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And we did this headline yesterday.
It's awful to see. It's sad to see a Canadian leader like humiliated and begged to that extent, you know, relegating himself to that kind of supine, pathetic.
He put himself there, though. He put himself there with a Davos speech.
No, I know. Because it didn't have to be that way. He could have just been consistent and respectful from the start.
Yeah.
Not engaged with Trump's theatre about 51st State and so on. Just laughed that bollocks off. But he didn't.
Our headline yesterday was about the CBC. And they must have watched the show. I mean, this is obviously come as Senate committee report. It says CBC Radio Canada. News and current affairs content should be periodically analyzed by outside experts in order to assess its fairness. Listen, Captain Obvious. Assess what? Like, I don't know, if you have an IQ over 60 and you watch just a couple minutes of it, or you go to their website at almost any time, it's pretty damn obvious that it's heavily biased and it is basically a propaganda outlet for the Liberal Party of Canada. Again, Cochrane and the group went off. Like Cochrane, their number one guy, went off to Europe there on a taxpayer dole. Didn't get an interview. Caitlin Collins embarrassed them all, including CTV's guy. They're all there. They must wonder, like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I I know the CTV people have IQ points higher than CBC because they don't have as much hauteur. They must be beside themselves and saying, like, what is going on here? Like, we have done this to ourselves. We're a bloody well an embarrassment to ourselves. Like, the other media outlets around the world must look at us and say, you guys are just brutal. Like, Iain did that comparison yesterday with Turkey. And if you took out the word Turkey, it's basically Canada. That's Canada's media landscape.
Devastating. Yeah. I mean, it was, talk about devastating though and embarrassing. Watch this press conference if anybody has like half an hour that they want to throw away, and listen to these senators, including a conservative senator. Just listen to how like ambivalent and timid and meek that they are when they're like, the journalists, if you want to call them that, they just want to ask, like, what do you mean the CBC's biased? Like, they kept asking that, like, well, can you give us examples? Like, what do you mean? And the senators were just like, we're not saying it's biased. We're just saying we want experts in there to shore up trust in the media. It's like, and then one of the reporters came out and said, yeah, but if you assess the bias levels of the CBC, isn't that just going to give people that dislike the CBC more ammunition to like attack? It was so awful. It was such an abomination of a press conference in terms of the reporters and the senators. But this is the thing, like, they try to make it seem like that's a controversial statement to say that CBC is biased. I mean, if you
CBC at this thing.
Don't think the CBC is biased towards the Liberal Party and the left liberal progressive world in general, then all I can say is you are media illiterate. You don't understand the media. You don't understand politics. You need to go away like an Irish monk in the Middle Ages. You need to go and live in the side of a cliff for 10 years and just learn about media and politics, and then come back and you'll have figured it out then.
Listen to this, though. A Senate panel yesterday rejected assurances by CBC management that news coverage is politically neutral. And then Brody fell on, right? We showed you that clip. CBC editor-in-chief said the network operated the most bias-free newsroom he has seen. Good one, Brody. Good one.
And then he says he's worked at the Globe and Mail. Like, good one indeed. You're funny, bugger.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. Compared to the Globe and Mail, maybe, right? Maybe less biased than the Globe and Mail on certain issues. Who knows? But the CBC is a shell of what it once was. It does not act in the interest. Well, here's a simple point. So they have a panel. They have one conservative viewpoint, Kate Harrison, on, and she's good. They have one against 3 or 4 all the time. Why not swing it? Why not have 3 or 4 conservative viewpoints and 1 liberal, if you want to make it fair? Do you know what I mean? Put Iain and I on there, give us an hour. Like, where is the voice of Canada? Like, I mean, just look at all their panels. David Cochrane and Rosemary Barton are 2 leads.
Look at the reporters. Look at the people that they put on. Like, look at the stories that they focus on. Look at the language that they use. You know, we do live in a very polarized time now where you can almost tell somebody's politics within a few sentences based on the nouns that they use, based on what they call things, the names they give to things, you know. And CBC is perfectly in alignment with the progressive left when it comes just purely to terminology. They don't leave it to any. There's no mystery there. They are very much on the progressive, liberal left, whatever name you want to give to it. So
I just did a poll there. Is the CBC biased? You can answer that there, yes or no. It's a simple one. Just, I don't know. Go ahead.
I can only say yes. I can't even see no.
Well, they're both there, though.
Okay.
I just don't know CBC, anybody will need to use the no. I'm not sure if anybody's going to hit that one.
It's sad, the CBC, and I would also advise people to listen to the radio. Don't just look at the website. Listen to the radio and listen to the sort of stories that they cover. Listen to the people they interview. It's just relentless.
So far, 45 votes.
There's almost no story that is left out.
47 votes, and Julie, how many no's, Julie? How many no's,
Studies
Julie?
show that the industrial
How many,
carbon
Julie?
price adds 0.
That's right. Julie says so far, nobody believes the CBC is not biased. Sorry, CBC. And then why is there lack of trust in the media and in government and in many of the institutions? It's because of people like this person right here. She's one of the poster girls for it, like Justin Trudeau. This is a little clip from 2020 from Jacinda.
Most up-to-date information daily. You can trust us as a source of that information. You can also trust the Director General of Health and the Ministry of Health. For that information, do feel free to visit at any time to clarify any rumour you may hear, covid19.govt.nz. Otherwise, dismiss anything else. We will continue to be your single source of truth. We will provide information frequently. We will share everything we can, everything else you see, a grain of salt. And so I really ask people to focus
The
on
most
that.
egregious example of that appears to be this text which originated in Malaysia.
That's
and
good
has
enough.
kind of
That's good enough. She is the science. She is the truth. Justin Trudeau was the same way. They did this themselves, and the media outlets at the time did it as well. They trumpeted and parroted this stuff, never asked why. Like if the government says jump, media's job is to say why? Why? Why should we jump? Where was the pushback? We did it. A small independent outlet pushed back as much as we could, but we weren't even allowed to ask a bloody question. We sat on those lines pushing the button, right?
Yeah, they hung up on me once at least.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I
She
mean.
quite literally said, a way to translate that gobbledygook. Gonna get that word. It's very important to get that word right. But one way to translate that is, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Does that sound
And what
familiar to
happened?
anyone?
And
That's
what
a very
happened?
nice way to translate what you just said.
And what happened to Jacinda? The truth
She's
set
buggered
her
off
free.
to a foreign country, decided to abandon her own country.
The truth set her free. We just need the rest to be set free. In Canada, the vaccine records have been sealed for 15 years. You want accountability? Change the government out, because you're not getting it with this government. We're going to show you a lot of that later. Anyway, this poll looks like we'll wrap this one up here. There's a couple people that actually voted yes or no. Okay.
Good to have diversity of opinion.
Yeah, 1%.
1%.
And then Melissa Lansman put this out because CTV is lost its way. I don't know who does their tweets or whatever. Should the rainbow replace the maple leaf during the whole month of Pride Month? And CTV, Melissa Lansman's like, hey, CTV, blink twice if you're okay. CTV is just like a parrot of the CBC, really.
It's also just, I'm sorry, CTV, if you're watching. It's also just stupid. It's like media for and by stupid people. It's you feel like you're going into the special classroom for a bit. It's like, hey buddy, like what's going on? And then suddenly you just realize, like, oh no, they're operating on a very different level here.
Here's Dominique LeBlanc here on the deal.
So Janice Charette and I had a long and we think constructive meeting with Ambassador Greer. It very much builds on the work we did with him in Washington on June 2nd. We have remained obviously in contact. I've had a number of conversations in the intervening days, and we agreed that it would be useful on the margins of this summit to have a conversation again and to build on what we thought were the substantive discussions that we had in Washington a couple of weeks ago. We took stock of the work that we have done over the last 2 weeks. and we agreed that we would be in touch again next week.
Still awake? Doesn't have to talk long. You can see why he was a good babysitter. Sends the kids to sleep in no time.
Yeah, just like, again, we have done the work that required to be done when we did the work. The work was always the work that should be done when the work gets done. What? Okay.
And he always tries to, like, his demeanor that he's kind of tries to present is the sort of tired and like worn out and impatient, competent guy. It's like, I'm here to fix it. It's like, it was like that when he was like, David, you just asked the same question twice. It's like, I'm just trying to get my job done, man. But at the same time, how's that going, Dom?
Here's Mark Carney put out this tweet. Canada is a reliable partner in a world that is anything but. And he said that they've got 13 new deals that will unlock more than $5 billion of investment at home. New contracts for Canadian defense workers, new partnerships that will build a stronger, more secure, more prosperous world. Well, what are the deals? They trot out everything, including like a 2-for-1 coupon here in Canada for, getting into a museum. So why don't you just show us some of the beef? Show us the beef instead of these, all these possible deals.
Well, look, if you're suspicious of this and you're curious about this, go on to CBC or CTV or your liberal supporting news outlet of choice.
Mouthpieces.
And find the articles that they've written about Donald Trump claiming certain, like however many trillions of dollars he's claimed in investment. And read that article, right? And then here's the clever bit. Replace Donald Trump's name with Mark Carney's. And then you might be able to understand a little bit of what's going on here when the leader of a country makes unsupported claims about investment in the country. That's all you got to do. Just read the Trump articles and then just give your chin a scratch. Just go, oh, wait. Maybe that also applies to our dear leader, Mark Carney.
So I just went on the CBC's website. You'd think they would talk about the Iran agreement, but that's not on there. It's Canada Captain Alfonso there. That's what's on there. And then also, Trump wants CUSMA to expire immediately, but the reality is he can withdraw only in 6 months. Okay. Like, that is almost immediately. What the difference does 6 months make? Do you know what I mean? Like, they
also, that doesn't account for all of the executive powers that he could, if he really wanted to kill this deal, all the executive powers he could deploy to make it basically untenable and unworkable. Like, he could do that.
Here's the other thing. Markets and corporations work into the future. They don't work into the next minute. That's why the oil price is down to $74. It's not like all the oil showed up all of a sudden. Do you know what I mean? Like, the tankers are just starting to move through the Strait of Hormuz. They believe the tankers will show up. You know what I mean? It's into the future. That's why the price of oil is dropping, right? They believe stuff's coming on. It is a future-looking forecast. So the same thing goes for CUSMA. No USMCA, no CUSMA. Auto manufacturers aren't going to build factories. They aren't going to expand into Canada. That's the reality of the situation, whether it's 6 months or 15 minutes. Nobody makes billion-dollar decisions on 6 months, CBC. Think with your head. Here's some reality. Here's a bucket of cold water. This is Richard Diaz we've had on before. That's us, the one with the circle. G7 real GDP per capita. That's us right there.
Yikes.
Who's the blue line? Who's the blue line?
Well, one of them's Italy, and the other one's the USA.
Somebody's doing something right, and somebody's doing something awfully poorly.
I mean, it's just, it's abominable, isn't it? It's a very sorry picture, that.
Yeah, but look in 2015 where it was. Wasn't everybody in the same race? All in the same race. COVID hits 2020. Everybody crashes. Thank you, WHO and the UN and all the other world organizations. that shut the world down. And then look who springboarded out of there. Look who shot out of COVID. Look who shot out of COVID. Like a rocket ship out of COVID. That's Joe Biden and them too. Just like a rocket ship out of COVID. And who's stumbling?
But just look at Italy as well. Like Italy, of all the places in the world, the Italian economy has become like a byword for stagnation. It's got, next to like South Korea and a few other countries like that, it's got the worst demographics on earth. It's got catastrophically bad demographics in Italy. They stopped having kids ages ago. So,
but
it's not that. It's like they're juicing the figures.
But Francois-Philippe Champagne will say, Canada is the world leader in this. Canada is in the best in the G7. Okay.
And Mark Carney as well. We're talking to, what's her name? Caitlin Collins. Yeah. She was saying, he was saying, sorry, how did he phrase it again? Something like, we've got the best fiscal position of the G7 by far. Cool. So I guess that means you can take on a load of debt and still feel good about yourself, while GDP per capita continues to do what exactly? GDP per capita being a proxy for human well-being in your country.
One of our reporters is working on a story here, because here's one of the fallacies here in real estate. Because people say, oh, like in Kelowna, for example, the average price of a home really hasn't moved that much, so it really hasn't affected the Kelowna market. The average price of a home is still just around $1 million. But I did a show with Remax. I had a Remax here. What you can get for $1 million is completely different than what you can get for $1 million a couple of years ago. And also looked at some notices of assessment from people that had like bought at the high. Their notice of assessment was $916,000. Their notice of assessment this year is $715,000. It's a massive loss for some people because they have a mortgage that's higher than their mortgage value now. Do you know what I mean? It's again, you just, when they put out the stat, you just have to scratch below the surface to see the reality of the situation. So that story will go out here, I think, in the next day or two, where we're going to actually look at what you can get. So that number is being kind of like, massaged a bit, or you got to look below the number. But here's another part of it: is lower immigration leads to lower Canadian population growth. Yeah, because the Canadians, the young people, can't afford to have kids, have been convinced not to have kids by climate religion. Imagine how many young people have had their psyche damaged here in Canada with climate religion. I know personally probably 4 or 5 families that have had their kids say they won't have kids because of the climate crisis in the world, the existential crisis.
How do you think this problem is going to be solved if there aren't any people around? Or is it maybe that the ideology would prefer that to be the case, that there weren't any people around? But
a lot of people can't afford it, and then they've been convinced, like, if you city planners here in the city here, convince you that you can't have a single family lot, that you must live in a 600 or 400 square foot box. And we look at all those boxes that got built in Toronto and Vancouver, and we're going to show you some of that later too. They're not selling. There's tons of inventory on the markets of these 300-400 square foot boxes. And they're now looking at who to get a bailout from? That's right, you. They're going to the government and say, bail us out. We can't sell these boxes.
It's just upside down world though as well, isn't it? Because those boxes are being built and the single family homes aren't being built with the intention that, it'll help first time buyers get on the property ladder and all that and get their own home. Meanwhile, everybody living in, or the majority of the people living in those single family homes are like in their 50s, 60s, 70s, whatever. Like they've finished, in many cases they're retired, they're finished with kids. And you want to send the young people who are at like child rearing age, you want to send them into the tiny little boxes, which are like the biggest imaginable turnoff when it comes to like, should we have kids? It's like the guaranteed no. It's like, it's just completely upside down. Like the whole approach is almost designed to bring the fertility rate down even further.
Well, listen to this. You got to listen carefully on this. So here's the deal. Like you can build a single family home, I don't know, in the 200 square foot, $200 a square foot, say. Still, $200 a square foot. They're selling these boxes. They're selling these boxes at $1,500, $2,000 a square foot. Think of the profits for the developers at $2,000 a square foot versus building a home at $200 a square foot. You know, and here's the comparison they'll make. The homes, the most, you know, like say an average home is 1,500 square feet. So there's 300 grand for that home. And that's, oh, you can get this condo for 200,000. Yeah, it's like one tenth of the size. It's by the square foot. And you don't get your own yard. You don't get a whole bunch of things. But they say, oh, just on prices, look at this. And this is what Kearney's selling right now. You're going to buy these homes. They're cheaper. But by the square foot, they're enormously expensive.
Someone here has asked, Janet says she's sincerely asking, if AI is going to replace workers, why do we need large populations? Well,
what's the purpose of
if I was cheeky, my response to that would be if. We don't know, do we? We don't know. We don't know if AI is going to replace workers. You know, it's like, what's the world going to look like? What's the supply and demand? They're still going to exist, but it's just what are we going to be supplying? What are we going to be demanding? You know, I mean, it's almost certainly going to require people. But certainly, when it comes to like having kids, it's the continuation of the human race. Like, is that not just like justification in itself? Yeah. Shouldn't we strive to achieve that? To
I would
continue
say
the species?
I would say to Janet, go and listen to some of the speeches from Elon Musk. The world will become an interplanetary species, and they want to populate different planets. So there's lots of opportunity. There'll be different things. It'll be different things. Anyway, go listen to some of that stuff with a clean mindset, without, you know, like a liberal framing. Don't watch any CBC and CTV first, or read the Global Mail. Immigration employees accused of sexual harassment, fraud, violence, and report. Like the immigration file in Canada is a shit show at best. And Lena Diab is the one running it. Sean Fraser did run it. I mean, it's a mess. The Liberals have made an absolute mess of immigration here in Canada. And that blew up the real estate bubble. That literally blew up the real estate bubble, along with the organized crime here and the money laundering here in the bigger cities, Toronto and Vancouver. It was all under really bad policy. That's what blew up the real estate bubble. And now a lot of Canadians are trapped in it, and some of them losing their homes and losing, you know, everything they worked for their whole lives. Tristan Hopper, the biggest myth I suspect would be the belief that Canada is one of the world's richest nations. That's extremely not true anymore. Our GDP per capita is barely top 20. Most humiliating. It's now on par with the UK. We always used to be richer than the mother country. It's a sad reality, but it's policy. It's policy. It's strangulation by regulation. I mean, if people can't see that by now, even the CBC, like, I mean, but it's ridiculous. We are on our own way. And here's Mark Carney putting this piece out again. A trusted, reliable partner in a world that's anything but. I mean, you have to read that a couple of times. Say, what are you saying? G7 backs Canada's major global energy supplier. Yeah, he's getting pressure in the G7. Like, you know, like where you can't tell lies. You know what I mean? Where you can't, you know, like say, well, you know, like green superpower. Like he says that. Did you hear him utter climate change once at the G7 in front of Trump? No. He did it when he was in Ireland by himself. He was at the podium talking, you know, climate change and blah, blah, blah. But around Trump, he doesn't say those words because he would say, like, what are you talking about? Shut up. Just shut up.
He's a bit of a Janus-faced individual, isn't he? But just to go back to that Tristan Hopper thing, talking about being on par with the UK in terms of GDP per capita, that might be one of an example of where statistics don't quite reflect reality, because the quality of life in Canada for most people is much higher than it is in the UK, I would say, in my experience.
Well, we're still not deciding
to eat. That
you know
it could be the same.
I mean, like, hey, in your own personal experience, you had to decide when you're going to have heat in your home, and you're not having to do that yet in Ottawa.
But yeah, not just that, but like the houses are tinier, they're older, they're like... Another thing about Britain, I mean, maybe you like this, and I should say England rather than Britain, it's not quite the same in Scotland and parts of Wales, but in England, you literally, you can't do anything. You can't throw a stone in any direction without it hitting some granny's head or something. It's like everybody is on top of you all of the time. Like you never get any space to yourself. You go to like a quiet part of the countryside or something, it's like, and then there's just like a crowd of 50 people will emerge out of a bush or something. Like there are many ways in which living in Britain is, or living in England, I should say, is worse than Canada. But nonetheless, that's quite subjective. But on the objective side, the GDP per capita, I agree with Tristan Hopper that Canada has absolutely no business being in the same league at all as Britain. If you look at Britain's fundamentals, you look at it sort of, you look at the British economy and society, they have nothing to compare with Canada. Canada should be light years ahead of them.
And here we go. Just as, like there's pressure to get our natural resources out of the ground, the federal government is being sued by a group of left-wing environmental activists over its alleged violation of the Net Zero Accountability Act that we put in. Environmental Defence and the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment are named as applicants in the suit alongside 3 individuals. Stephen Guilbeault on that. So the suit claims Ottawa plans to reduce CO2 emissions is illegal, with Environmental Defence adding separately, nothing that the government has proposed makes up for what it has gutted, eliminated, and dismantled. That's what I'm saying here in Canada. Like, you can, like, you're going to try, like, it takes a strong leader to say we're going to build a pipeline and just push forward and do it. But I mean, if you're Enron or Synovus and that, and you read this kind of stuff, are you going to put billions of dollars on the line and get to the last mile and get told, no, we're going to show you some stuff in this load here today of people that got to the last mile and then got it taken away from them? It's our policy and it's our leadership. Canada needs like a clean, like we need to wipe the slate. We need to wipe the slate because we have created this spider web of regulation, strangulation, policies, and some people are really, like, it's their religion. It's literally their religion. And they will do extreme things for it. I mean, it's been shown. A lot of the wildfires in Canada have been arson. Why?
Well, but also something happens, like a wildfire or something like that, and then immediately it's politicized and misinformation, or you could even call it disinformation, enters the conversation, particularly out of the mouths of these activists. Why is that? Why do they come and blame things on CO2 emissions when it's very difficult to do that, when even the IPCC doesn't do that for certain weather phenomena? But they do that. They make that connection, and the likes of Elizabeth May saying that, the Atlantic current is going to collapse and we're all going to die and things like that. Why? Why do they do it? And another note on media bias, I would say, read this article. So this article is from Canadian Press. Look how they refer to them as merely climate advocates or environmental groups. That's all there. If you're wondering who this organization, the sort of main organization in this is, it's Environmental Defence, which is a progressive left-wing extremist organization. But Canadian Press, they're not interested in referring to it as that. It's just, these are just environmental advocates, And then if there's ever anything that's like slightly to the right of Chairman Mao, then they will describe that as far-right organization. It's like, this is how they give themselves away. And I don't know, I mean, I was about to say you don't have to be a journalist to see that. I don't know, maybe you do have to be a journalist, but I don't think so. I think, you don't need experience as a journalist or professional training as a journalist to see that the way that they frame these groups, the terms they use, what they name them, and how they categorize them gives the game away. Just like that. It doesn't even matter. Like, they don't have to say anything else. That alone tells you pretty much everything that you need to know.
Check out this chart. This is liberal policies as well. Check it out. This is an interesting chart if you stare at it for a little bit. The green bar is non-permanent residents.
Good times. Good times in 2023 there.
Yeah.
So now there's like a sort of return to a little bit of what might look like sanity. And all the plaudits go to the party that introduced the insanity.
Yeah, and then also now they're talking about how we need to ramp it up again, hey? As the tap gets turned down and companies like Rogers is like, hey, where's all my cell phone customers? Like, I need, because, you know, when you bring in hundreds of thousands and millions of people, all of a sudden they need a cell phone, you know, like furniture companies, all these, who did it benefit? It benefits the few at the expense of the many. You paid for it.
Big
with
commercial landlords as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you paid for it with no access to healthcare, high inflation. And who wins? The big corporations that were lobbying the HR department. Tim Hortons wins.
And you've got to remember as well that while they introduce all of this, all of these problems and difficulties into the country, they don't have to deal with the consequences because they have a compound somewhere on the outskirts of Vancouver or something like that. They're in North Vancouver, or they're in like Muskoka in a compound, and you can't even walk within 2 miles of where they live or something like that. Like, it's not a problem for them. If there's a waiting list to get a scan, they're going to be in New York before you know it, and
or they live in Connecticut, or they live in Connecticut, or some of the nice places. You know what I mean? They live in the places. I'd say go read Stephen Harper's book. It explains it all. It explains it all in there. Canada, in many like academic things, is a dumping ground. It is basically treated as a hotel where rich people can access cheap labor, make money, but they don't have to live in the mess that they create.
Totally, which completely undermines the idea of a democracy. A democracy is based on a demos. That's the first part of that word comes from. Demos is like a people. It takes the demos out of it, and it's one demos, one group inflicting something onto another group. That's a more accurate way of looking at it. It's not like we're all in this system together. We're all one people. We're many different people, and these people, if you want to call them elites or whatever, I mean industrialists, whatever term you want to use, they've been doing an awful lot of inflicting on the rest of us, haven't they, for quite some time now?
Yeah, the policy statement that I've been saying this forever. Policies that benefit the few, the elitists, at the expense of the many. That's basically, you could write that underneath Liberal and NDP. You could write that policy statement underneath there. And then, like I said, go read some of those academic reports that say basically Canada is a dumping ground because of its lax regulations for crime and all that kind of stuff. We're going to show you some of that stuff later. Like the crime file here in Canada is absolutely atrocious. And it's allowed, right? Because it props up real estate. Who's the benefactor of real estate prices in Canada? Well, Brookfield owns a lot of commercial real estate, owns a lot of residential real estate. And now they're going to bail out these guys too. Anyway.
And then I'm just looking at one of the comments from Jir N1P says, I'm on a 2+ year wait list to see a medical specialist. To quote Donald Trump, many such cases. But you just have to remember, you could probably, I mean, it might be public information if you looked hard enough, but you can almost certainly guess that the people that, or many of the people that advocated for that extraordinarily high level of immigration, unprecedented pretty much in the history of the world in 2023, as you can see there, the big green tower. The people who advocate for that are not on 2-year wait lists, are they?
No.
They're in Arizona, they're in California, they're in New York, they're in Connecticut, whatever it is, being seen right away. And they're paying for it privately because they made a lot of money out of this human quantitative easing, didn't they? This human money printing. And you just have to remember that. So next time you see one of these selfish bozos press conference or something like that, or a House of Commons committee saying we urgently need more workers, like we don't have the staff, we don't have the labour. Just think that thought. Think, hold on, when all these people come in, and then I have a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 year wait list, wait to see a medical specialist or something like that, because all these people are here and they need to be seen to. They need medical assistance.
And they get first line. They get front of line. They get front of line.
Where's the big man asking for it? Where's he going to be? And the answer is the United States of America, being seen within 5 days or something like that. That's where.
I've heard from doctors saying that immigrants get put front of line. They get moved up in line, and even asylum seekers, and they get extra money.
Triage.
They get treated differently than you do. And
if they're triaging based on medical need, there's a reasonable chance that they will have the greater medical need. If they've come from a country like Afghanistan, which is basically in the sort of 9th century or something like that, there is every possibility that their medical need is actually higher. So they might actually be triaged based on a sort of legitimate system. But clearly that, there's something like brutally unfair about that, isn't there? Like that a citizen would be leapfrogged.
And I know too many people right now that are going to Mexico and getting treatment because they've been told that they're a year or 2 years or just being kind of shuffled along. Oh, you're not that serious yet. You're not that serious. And you know what the sad thing is? They can book a call in Mexico right now and they get in to see a team of doctors. Like there's a setup. You can go to San Diego. You can fly to San Diego and drive across the border to Tijuana and get service almost immediately. Many Canadians are doing it. That's a testament to the Tim Hortons there should be class action suits against these people. Tim Hortons, like all these companies that have made money, made scads of money off of this, and the MPs are protected from this, even though they make bad decisions, and allowed it to happen. Protected.
You're talking there, and I'm thinking, if you hadn't used the words Canada, Mexico, and so on, you could easily have been talking about Nicolas Maduro's Venezuela, where the elite would do stupid things and destroy Venezuela, and then they would go to Cuba for their medical care. Yeah. I mean, there are so many unfavorable comparisons to be made when it comes to Canada nowadays.
We're allowing this to happen. People that say they don't want to vote anymore, they want to do this, you need to scream your bloody head off, because some of the stuff is just, we're going to show you some abuse of the taxpayer here in a bit too. Like this show needs to go far and wide. This needs to get out to more people, because people need, just look at that graph there. Put that back up. Just look at that graph. And then ask yourself, how many people do you know personally that have suffered in wait lines? And some died. We've done stories of people dying in actually ER rooms. We've done stories. We're an accredited newsroom. We've done stories of people dying in wait rooms. How many closures have we done here in British Columbia? How many closures have we done, ER, and they're told to drive over a mountain pass 2 hours for an emergency? Maybe they can drive over. Maybe they can't because of the snow. Mountain passes. There's your answer right there.
There is data available as well.
Put this policy into place.
There's data available of the number of people that die while on wait lists as well, and it's disgustingly high. Just in BC alone, it's several thousand people a year. I mean, that's not acceptable, is it? That's a moral failure.
This is harsh reality for people. This is harsh reality, and the like the liberal lovers are going to push back against us and call us fake news and all this stuff. Like, you just use your common sense. Look at the graph. Look at the data. Look at all the stories we do. It's like them saying it like we're going to get to it. But we'll get to it. I don't want to front run our stories, but we'll get to it. Here's Mark Carney. We got lots to do. Wow, we got a lot to do here. Here's Mark Carney on Chinese EVs one more time when he said he talked to the president on the deal and before, because watch his facial expressions. Watch his facial expressions.
Why did you feel the need to bring up Canada's Chinese electric vehicle cap with the U.S. president? And did you speak directly with him at the summit about the renewal of CUSMA?
I spoke to him about a range of things. He had asked, I can't remember he had asked me about it on China, and I explained to him what the deal. I mean, it was one of many interactions with him, and I was explaining the actual structure of the deal. You're familiar with it. I'm not surprised that the President of the United States doesn't follow every detail of every agreement that Canada has, and he likes the structure, actually. We had a follow-up conversation about it as well.
You said you spoke about a range of things, but did you speak specifically about CUSMA renewal?
We had the discussions with our trade people. We had lots of other issues to discuss.
Right. How dare you ask me? So they did ask Trump on the question too. Did you talk about you said you liked the 49,000 EVs? I know, and he said, oh, I mean, there's some outlets saying, well, I mean, he didn't. He just said, oh, I like it. You know, he wasn't really paying attention. But Trump did say, like, I don't know if I like it or not. But I mean, it seems good that there's a cap on it. But that was all he really said, because he doesn't know what's really going on, right? But if he finds out they're going to build a Chinese factory in Canada, it's not only going to be him that loses his mind. It'll be all the automakers. It'll be all the automakers in Canada, I mean the United States, and in the ones in Canada, and it'll be the Japanese automakers. If they allow Chinese manufacturing in Canada, that will be like sticking a stick in it and then just rubbing and burning it in there. And here, we got some stuff. Here's the Financial Times put out a piece today. BMW sounds alarm as China squeezes European automakers. Weird, eh? That's odd. And because China's not selling as many cars, their economy is not doing that well, so they're lowering the prices as they go after other markets.
They're all saying this, though. All of them are saying this. Even the best run car companies in the world, like Honda, and once upon a time, it's in trouble now. Like, they're coming out and they're saying exactly this. This is happening to every car company.
It says the Chinese market is itself shrinking, the economy sputters, and subsidies are phased out with electric vehicles continuing to gain share. This further squeezes European car makers. That is the lifeblood of Germany, really, the auto manufacturing, right? That is their thing. That's their jam. And it leaves the Chinese rivals with lots of spare capacity to export their cheap EVs abroad. And then there's the slave labor. You know, how do you compete with slave labor? Like, how do you say that to the American auto worker, the Canadian auto worker, the European auto worker? How do you say that to them? You know, like with Tesla, they don't want to unionize in that because they're getting better. They don't get to use slave labor.
Well, they do make cars in China.
Yeah. I mean, just they do make cars in China for sure. But here's Brazil. This is from the Wealth Moose, and we've got a whole big thing on. But you know, like, they've made a mess in Brazil. They've made an absolute mess in Brazil. And they've been labor and human rights controversies there. They have not done a good job in Brazil, for sure. And Mark Carney alluded to Brazil as an example of, well, you know, what we could have. But he didn't think to take a look, scratch underneath the surface and see what's actually going on in Brazil.
Well, he literally didn't even think to, like, read a 500-word article on Bloomberg or something like that. Like I was saying, whenever it was earlier this week, this is old hat. Like, basically everybody that's interested in this kind of thing knows this and has for many years. Like, I can't believe that he's ignorant of this.
Here's a piece on Fox on the USMCA, or CUSMA, whatever you want to call it. I don't know why they do that, right? Why we have two different names for it. It literally should be called the USMCA. It's because the most important person in that trade deal is the United States.
Maybe they should call it Musca.
Musca.
Put Mexico first, just for a laugh.
Mexico would probably like to just be like quiet, just like, you call it whatever you want, just leave us alone. Just like, let's have some trade. Let's listen to this clip here, though.
Negotiate the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, and any progress looking dicey. Why? Canada making it all about themselves.
The country's ambassador to the U.S. admitting that tariff relief is a higher priority to them in these negotiations than the trade treaty.
Yikes. Because America's trade representative, Jameson Greer, is already not happy with Canada's conduct, blaming that country just last week for its retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods, slow-rolling talks.
Here now to react to all of it, Unleash Prosperity co-founder Steve Moore.
Well,
Steve, good to see you.
We don't want to get into that, but, you know, like, we've done a lot of this to ourselves. Remember when Anita Nan, they offered Canada, let's do a deal on aluminum and let's do a deal on steel. And she said, we will not do separate deals. We will not do separate deals. We will only do one deal. And then just, there was a couple of days ago, Dominic LeBlanc said, we're likely going to work on separate deals on everything. Like we're likely going to do a bunch of different separate deals. Why wouldn't you take the deal? How many Canadian workers have to sit at home on unemployment insurance? Because of the hauteur of Anita Anand.
Well, and Jolie seems to be the real villain in this story.
Yeah.
I mean, it will be written at some point, and we'll learn the details and the truth. But as things stand, the most credible evidence that I've looked at suggests that it's none other than Madame Jolie who's responsible for this. So I don't know. Would she ever explain herself? That doesn't really happen in this country, does it? You can colossally bugger everything up, like Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland, and there is no like you said, there's no exit interview. There's no like. So why did you screw up the country?
No
Like, there's nothing like that. You just disappear.
Right? Yeah.
You just go to America. You just go to America, make loads of money, have a laugh, and talk and just lie to Americans about $10 a day daycare and things like that. Like, it's great. It's absolutely great. There are no consequences whatsoever for wrecking this country in politics. It's like total consequence free. I mean, for them, it's absolutely great, isn't it? It's absolutely amazing.
Well, Jolie for sure is there's a lot of reasons to blame Jolie, but the buck stops with the Prime Minister. He has the ability to fire her. He has the ability to say no. He has the ability, that is his responsibility, and he has not taken on that responsibility with many cases. That Michael Moss still in cabinet. Michael Moss still there. Even another one that actually the RCMP removed from cabinet, and Carney wasn't doing anything about it. I mean, it's ridiculous. And here's their latest policy. We're going to skip that other story, but Mark Carney granted federal managers arbitrary powers to ignore his Buy Canadian policy. Everything's just a charade. Everything is just a charade. Just a charade. New reasons to bypass Canadian contractors include administrative burden. It's just like they did all this pomp. They stood up there at the podiums, buy Canada, buy this. And of course, Mark Carney didn't do it anyway. Brookfield's in the U.S. All his investments are in the U.S. But how many times did they stand at the podium? And they convinced older people. They go to the grocery store and they're paying more money because, like they're listening to the government, right? They're just like, I bought this more expensive cheese because it's, it's what the government wants us to do right now. But are they doing it themselves? No. Ministers
Those poor people, can we just spare a thought for those people for a minute? Those poor, gullible, abused, exploited people in this country who still believe in the Liberal Party and the political elite in this country. They still believe them when they say things. And just, can you imagine the misery that some of these people have endured? They've probably gone into debt to buy the Canadian option every time because they just believe in it so strongly. They might even have sold their life savings, shares, and tried to move it into Canadian stocks or something like that, or cancel vacations. Do you remember that? I mean, I remember listening to the CBC at the time, and all these people were like, "Yeah, we just lost $15,000, but there's no way we're going to Florida. We're not going to do it. We can't afford it, but there's no way we're going to do it. So we're taking the hit." Just for a minute, pity these people, these terribly abused people who are just dragged around like some sort of unloved dog by the Liberal Party, while the Liberal Party itself never listens to its own advice. As you say, Mark Carney, absolutely over the moon to have such a strong relationship with the United States, because that's where his wealth is. That's where his kids are. That's where his wife's employment prospects are. America is everything to him, and he didn't take even the slightest step. He didn't even make a gesture about getting away from America. And then there's Justin Trudeau, who made so much noise, who said, don't go to America, who now seems to live in America with his American girlfriend. It's like, I do feel sorry for these people. I know a lot of people are going to say they deserve it or whatever, but they're getting the piss taken out of them. They're being like exploited by these cynical, amoral people.
Canada has a dishonest media. Imagine if Iain and I were streaming into every living room, or the likes of us. I mean, not just us. I'm not saying that we're the only ones doing this. There's other ones out there, Sam Cooper's. There is honest, independent media. That's all that's left in Canada. And I keep saying that is what's going to save Canada. So we need to get this out to more people. We need to refuse to take in CBC's garbage, CTV's garbage, Global's garbage, Globe and Mail's garbage. All their garbage is just talking points. And you don't have to connect the dots. They're taking the money from them and they're acting in their interest. They're acting in lobbyists too. That's not even just government money. They're also taking money from the Tim Hortons and stuff like that too. And they kind of like sidestep all these issues. Because Iain and I aren't the smartest people on this planet here or in Canada. We can look at that chart. Like, how many people can look at that chart and look at what's going on around them? Like, we do stories on this all day long. Our newsroom, we're an accredited media outlet. We do the stories. We can add things together. This needs to get out to more people. The truth shall set us free. These people need to go. There needs to be accountability. There needs to be accountability, and we will not get accountability until we change this government. That's the only way to do it. Yeah, no, and the government is trying to choke us for sure. They've suppressed this channel already. We've heard that. We've seen it in the numbers. So the only thing you do is push it out. Like, it's like a brush fire. They're trying to stomp it out, so spread it. It's hard to spread a brush fire, stop a brush fire. Just spread it as far as you can. We got a young lady helping us on Instagram now. It's great. Nicola helping us. She did a really good post. It's one of the better ones I've seen. She did a great post. It's Iain being funny. You got to go on our Instagram and check it out.
I haven't seen that. I'm laughing here at a response to what you were saying about not being the smartest. Pammy says, you're not the smartest, but you are the cutest. Love heart.
There you go.
That's good.
I mean, we're really trying to. I mean, the easiest thing for me to do is to F off as well. It's to take off to the United States, to go to Texas and say, I don't need this anymore. We're here fighting. We're going to fight with our last breath. We're going to do everything we can with our small budget and our small means. And but a lot of that comes down to you. And there's a lot of people that come here every day. I mean, it takes a lot, right? Yeah. Then I agree.
That's why I don't go.
Needs a rewrite.
Someone's asking why I don't go to Parliament. I think is what the hint is there. The reason I don't go to Parliament is because they won't let me in.
We've said that many times. They are shield and spear. If you watch the
show, you would learn.
It's shield and spear. Like it's access. Go watch yesterday's show on Turkey. Go watch it. There's your answer right there. Go watch Iain's rant on Turkey. Go watch it. It's right there. They don't provide access. We send email after email after email. It's crazy. And here we covered this yesterday. When we had a clip on our X. Go follow our X. Please follow X. And if you don't have an X account, get an X account. It is the most important thing to get is X. X is where the truth lives for sure. And the liberals don't like X. But this is Dr. Mona Niemer, who's flying like like on your dime. Cabinet, in a confidential order, granted the chief science advisor blanket authority to travel worldwide, even as other federal managers cut expenses. So she got her carte blanche there. She billed $415,000 to date, including round-trip, round-the-world flights from Berlin to Cape Town, Dresden, Kyoto, Mumbai, Oslo, Rome, San Francisco, and a ton of other places.
Sharm el-Sheikh, Yokohama, Zurich.
Why not? Why not? On your dime.
I wonder if she went scuba diving when she was in Sharm el-Sheikh. Good times.
Business class trips to London for $12,000. While the Canadians stand in food bank lineups, this lady, that lady right there, that lady, It's like they're rolling around in money, like treating the taxpayer with so much disrespect. Iain was great yesterday when he said, line up the taxpayers that actually worked for her and how they're suffering. They're suffering. Well, she's taking off their table. Like there's kids literally like going without in Canada. Well, she has hotel there and is ordering the next champagne bottle, and then making sure that, you know, like getting mad at the flight attendant there because she didn't get her warm towel in time. These are the people running Canada around, the Laurentian elite. God forbid if I ever get into power, I will make them pay it all back. I'll take it from, you know what I mean? I'll make them pay it all back. Cut their wages to what private enterprise pays, and then make them pay back all these expenses, and then fire them. Like Elon Musk, imagine Elon Musk walking just like he did with Twitter. Show me what you've done for the last 2 years. Bring what you've done for the last 2 years. If you got nothing to show me, don't bother coming. Just get out.
Well, she could bring a lot of flight receipts and hotel receipts.
But people, there should be an uproar. This should be on the front page of CBC. Blackhawks has done it 2 days in a row. CBC doesn't have it. Imagine that. CBC, meh. It's just going to anger people.
We have to emphasize, she could have done all of this digitally, you know?
Yeah.
Virtually. She didn't have to go to Egypt and Switzerland and Italy and India and Norway and Germany, Japan and South Africa, etc. She didn't have to go to all these places.
She runs a file we don't need
now, don't we?
But she runs a file we don't need. We don't need this file at all. We don't need her. We can't afford it. At this time in Canada, we can't afford her need for luxury. Canada can't afford you. Resign, quit, give the money back, resign. Canada cannot afford you. How do you even take the money? And you know, they try to deny that too, like the FOIs that Blackhawks do, and they do the same thing to us. It takes like 2 years to get the records. Some people say, oh, these records are from 2 years ago. Yeah, because they won't release them. They won't release them. They drag their feet. They redact them. They do all kinds of stuff. Because you know why? Because they know you get angry. But you know what? The government corrupted media, they won't do these stories, will they? That in itself shows you. Because this should be, let's remember back to Stephen Harper and the $12 orange juice. How the media went after him on $12 orange juice. This looks like more than orange juice to me. And nothing. Nothing. Show me the story, CTV. Show me the story, Globe and Mail. Show me the story, CBC. Show it to me.
But I like the way you phrased it there earlier. I don't even know if you did it intentionally, but where you said, talking about the taxpayers that work for her. That's how you phrased it earlier. What an excellent way to think about it. Because that's true, isn't it? All those taxpayers, however many average taxpayers it takes to generate, you know, these hundreds of thousands of dollars that this woman costs us all. However many of those taxpayers are working day and night in some cases in real turmoil, really struggling. They are, in effect, if you look at it from a certain angle, they are working for her. They work so that she can do this kind of thing. And it's interesting if you compare that to the, the Middle Ages, before we had like a capitalist economy. So in the good old days of feudalism, wealth was basically measured in land. And so if you were a good boy and you did what the king wanted you to do, he would grant you land. And a lot of people think of that as like, all right, so it's about the land. It's like, it's something to do with the land, and like that's where he's going to live, and that's going to be like his little kingdom. But that's not really what it was. That was just a grant of like a salary, basically. That was just like money. So it was people, it was farmers who would work for you on your land to give you money. And you would then go to you probably spend most of your time in the capital city and spend it on all kinds of things because you were important to the king. So the king effectively kind of assigned peasants to you. It's like, okay, these are your peasants now. They're going to make money through agriculture, and then you can spend it as you want because you're useful to me. I mean, obviously it's a very different system that we live under now, but it's interesting to compare and wonder just how far we've come. Like, just how many modern day peasants does it take to send this woman off to Sharm el Sheikh so she can have expensive food and hotels and drinks and whatnot, and chuckle about UFOs or something like that, doing something that she could have just done over FaceTime?
What's even more disturbing is her answer to a Conservative MP when questioned on the expenses. And she said, it's unimportant. It's unimportant. You know what? It's important to the taxpayer that paid the money. It's important to the taxpayer that didn't get to feed his child that day. It's important to them because there's, like I said, there's record lineups at food banks. 11% of the Canadian population now below the poverty line. It's important to them. It's important, especially to the middle class that continues to pay these taxes, that are giving half of their income up for you, so that you can live like a king and while you don't even deserve it. And she says she's a champion of science. Show us what you've done, champion. And champions don't act like this. Champions don't act like that. Champions don't take from those that have less and live it up. Canada's not a rich society right now. Canada can't afford you.
But she says here, it's people helping each other to advance science. What science have you advanced? That would be the obvious question, wouldn't it? Yeah. You know, where's the science? Show me the science.
And Chrystia Freeland, the one that just said how great she was, she asked people to save money, and it turns out the record subsequently confirmed that most federal agencies actually spent more, not less, on travel because they don't care.
Because it's unimportant. It doesn't matter that the peasants might squeal. It matters that the elite can go and hobnob with the members of other countries' elite, and they can talk about science in vague ways. Or really, were they talking about science, or was there a lot of not so subtle digs at the likes of Donald Trump?
Yeah, that's really what it is.
I can guess that there probably was.
So, you want to help spread this as far as and wide? Send letters to your MPs. Demand they do interviews with Iain and I. Demand that they have the courage. Call them cowards. Call them whatever you want. You have the right. So you're a coward not to go on this show. You don't even answer your bloody emails. They won't answer emails to us. We're accredited according to their stupid accreditation rules. Won't answer bloody emails. Won't come on the show. Refuse to be held accountable. They won't even do interviews with David Cochrane. They're there in Europe there, and they do an interview. Carney does an interview with Caitlin Collins of CNN. And there's Cochrane and their high-powered guys from CTV. Nothing. Squatta. They're right on the plane.
Still not given CTV an interview at all, has he? I don't think. No. He's not done a sit-down with CTV.
Nothing. Garbage.
But they're still willing to swallow whatever they're given. Like, I mean, talk about a slave mentality.
Disgusting. And this is another one where they spent $300 million on this Prescribe It, and they just shut the program down. And this is Dan Manzier here. He said, in all his years as MP, he's never seen committee powers abused like this for months to block accountability. So they got a manufactured majority, and they're shutting these things down. Here's $300 million in Prescribe It. $300 million. Got jack, nothing done. $300 million. $300 million. And they paid a bonus to the CEO of this fiasco. The committee will not hold a meeting on Thursday. That's as per the chair's instructions. So when they got their manufactured majority, they just shut down these committees. You know why? Because they don't want accountability. And it just makes Canadians angry. And it really disturbs social cohesion. And it doesn't allow us to steal as much as we want to steal.
Social cohesion means as little democracy and as little scrutiny as possible.
This is Michael Geist. Ottawa orders up rewrite for CanCon funding. And this is excellent masthead editorial on flawed online streaming act. The government would take money from web giants and give the money to struggling creators of Canadian stories and music. Unfortunately, like the tale of Robin Hood, it's mostly fictional. Yeah, the money goes straight into the pockets of CBC to create programs like where they went after the RCMP. Nobody wants to watch their garbage. They have to force people to give them money, just like taxation. They force you to give them the money, and then they waste it. This one here...
And they're literally willing to use us as collateral damage by going after the American companies. And we all suffer when America gives us a crap deal or doesn't agree to a deal at all. So we all have to suffer. Like, we are their hostages, basically, while they try and extract some money from Facebook or whatever for themselves, not for the greater good, but just for their own little clique.
Joseph Barbuda's been on the show many times, and he said all this will result in the rise up of maybe other parties or different things, but will result in pushback. I mean, the more you push on a pot that's boiling, the more pressure builds, right? Help us get the word out. Help us share this far and wide.
The laws of physics, the laws of thermodynamics tell you that that's true. And yet, I don't know, Canada seems to somehow violate the laws of thermodynamics, doesn't it? But we'll see.
Well, here's a new poll from American Seiko. We've interviewed many, many times. To Canadians is eliminated death penalty in July of 1776. But there is a sharp rise up now. 60% of Canadians want it back.
Including 67% in BC.
I wonder why. The lawlessness here. You know, when the liberal policies, you know, when somebody breaks into your home, threatens your family and your life, and then you react, and then they charge you. Unbelievable.
But I mentioned the death penalty, didn't I? I can't remember, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
When I was talking about positions that are, at least as far as the establishment or the consensus, manufactured consensus would have it, there are certain positions that are kind of deemed to be beyond the pale and extreme, and it's like, and one of those is supporting the death penalty. And yet here we are, proved once again that a majority of Canadians want the death penalty. They want that to be a part of the justice system. That is not a fringe position. It's not even a controversial position, really. It's a majority position. It's a safe, you know, it's way more popular, vastly more popular than the Liberal Party is and ever will be, for example. And yet the Liberal Party is considered mainstream, isn't it? But the death penalty is way more popular than the Liberal Party. You know, which one of those things is fringe?
People have had enough.
Well, I think people have realized that there are certain people that simply cannot be rehabilitated, and it is obviously not worth doing so. Like, what's his name? Picton, the pig man. What was the point of putting him in a jail? Obviously, he should have just been given the death penalty, shouldn't he? I mean, is that a controversial thing to say? What was the point of that? What was the point of putting that disgusting demon in a prison cell on taxpayers'
Carla
money
Homolka
for however many years?
What Bernardo? Still,
Yeah, there are some people where, come on.
They're talking about
so
parole for
obvious.
him, right? They're talking about parole for him.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's that as well. Yeah.
He chained young girls up under his bed and then killed them.
Just astonishing. And obviously, I mean, often the most egregious murderers tend to sort of, they die in the process of doing it, don't they? Like Nova Scotia man and the other man in BC, Tumbler Ridge recently. They died in the process, but people like that, like, obviously, dear me, what rehabilitation is, you know, Anders, I can't remember his name now, Anders Breivik or something like that, the guy who killed loads of people in Norway, who's like kind of on the verge of release, I think, or maybe has he been sort of paroled? He murdered a load of kids in Norway with like a proper like army sort of military weapon and all the kit. I don't know if you can remember that. But somebody like that, like what the hell are you pissing about trying to rehabilitate somebody like that? Seriously, like what a waste of time. And I want to just emphasize anyway that the point that I'm making or want to make is that's not a controversial opinion. That is completely mainstream. Is the majority opinion. And yet people who have that view are made to feel like they're weirdos and that they're like pariahs.
The media in Canada is corrupt. They have a mind. Most of the media views from CTV, CBC, and Globe and Mail are fringe views that they speak with authority and try to jam it down your throat. Most of their opinions are fringe or extremist views. The climate thing, fringe view. The COVID, the way they acted during COVID, they should lose their license if there is a, like, you know, they should lose, there's no accountability. There should be accountability. David Cochrane, if you have a conscience, Rosemary Barton, what you did in the Freedom Convoy, you should resign.
But they wrap it up as though they're the middle ground. They're the sensible ones. No. I mean, you can bring on experts who are also from fringe minorities. You can do whatever you want to try and the media obviously does the best job. You could try and fool the people that you're actually the normal one, you're the mainstream, but eventually, your time runs out, doesn't it?
I mean, they would look at us and call us rabid dogs, probably.
They want the death penalty for child murderers? Oh my God.
Look at this. And this is, again, political nonsense. We're set to buy subpar jets just to own the Yanks. And this is Brian Lilly. I mean, if we buy these Griffins, and we just like Grippins, it'll just, again, be the Hota doing bad decisions after bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. Look at the state of the Canadian military. And the coolest thing they've done is they've offloaded that to Stephen Harper. Somehow, like the 11 years has nothing to do with that. Weird.
I mean, it's not good for US-Canada relations, is it? But it's also not good for the defense of the realm. The defense.
Well, yeah.
Canada.
Well, I mean,
it's
also stupid, just in just a practical sense. If you're pragmatic, it's just not pragmatic. It's just stupid. Anyway, here's Hegseth here talking about what Canada's done in the last little while, as well as NATO. Listen to this.
Many years and over 2 administrations. And for too long, NATO has been a paper tiger and a one-way street. No more. And that's what the Hague Summit is all about. That's what defense spending commitments are all about, transforming NATO back into a real military alliance that's focused on hard power and real deterrence.
That's
a
good.
NATO
That's good.
3.
We've neglected our military forever because I mean, Trudeau did it intentionally. We've rested comfortably under the protection of the United States, and then here comes Carney and the Liberals and the Boomer, or whatever, the elbows up crowd, sticking sticks in their eye and saying, like Chrystia Freeland saying that tanks are going to roll in the street, using a 4-year-old for the analogy. I talked to a 4-year-old, and they said, will American tanks be rolling in the streets? We'll fight back. And, people, again, what was that? I can't remember. There's a podcast channel there where she just like spits venom and says that old people are getting their guns and their shovels, are going to fight the Americans in the streets. Like,
there was a letter, wasn't there? And I think there was more than one letter, but there was one particularly funny letter in the Globe and Mail, and it was like that. It's like, I'm going to get out there and resist them Yankees. I mean, God help these people. This is what I mean about the abused casualties, the sort of collateral damage of the Liberal Party's cynical and successful bid to keep hold of power. There are lots of people who've had their minds melted.
If you get nothing else from this show, get the confidence to raise your voice. Get the confidence to raise your voice when you're in these groups. I talk to so many people that are scared to say things. Just don't take the shit anymore. Just say no. No, it's enough. Look what you've done. This is you having control for 11 years. This is what it is. This is your mess. Shut up. Go sit down over there and shut up for a while. It's your nonsense, right, that put us here. This is a guy visiting Toronto from World Cup. Listen to this clip here. We're going to play this little clip here. This is Vancouver, Toronto, Kelowna. Pick your city.
Americans feeling this morning with us now. CNN.
No. This other one here. Sorry. This one. We're going to skip that one there. This one. Yep. It's the wrong link. See if you can find it. Anyway, the guy walks around in downtown Toronto there, and he says it's like a third world country. Imagine that. Drug.
I saw one where it was like some European.
Yeah, this is what this
with an accent. I don't know where he's from, Germany or something. And he was saying that.
It doesn't
Go ahead.
even feel like it's a first world country. Look.
You don't see this in Ecuador. Look. Do you see this in Ecuador? Look, look, look. This is downtown. This is like the flagship. Young and Dundas. This is the flagship of Toronto. And there's literally garbage, crackheads, crazy people.
That's good. That's good enough. I mean,
They don't even call it Dundas anymore, do they? That's an idea of how third world they are. Like some sort of sad act communist. They renamed it, didn't they? Because they didn't like Dundas's history.
Go to downtown Vancouver. Go any downtowns. And then go to downtown Tokyo. You can't even find garbage. Like, go there. Like, you'll be shocked. You'll be absolutely shocked at how clean the subways are and everything in Tokyo. Largest city in the world. How'd they do it? How did they manage to do it, Mr. Eby?
Because it's a choice.
Yeah.
As much as I admire the Japanese, and I'm sure you're in agreement there, they're a very admirable people, the Japanese. But you know, they're not like a different species. They're just humans like us. Like if they can figure it out, we can figure it out. Like, it really, really is a choice.
Your vote matters, and your ability to raise your voice matters so much. Thanks for the compliments on the vest. I kind of like the vest too. It's kind of like
it's a Westkit, mate. Don't be calling
Westkit.
it
Sorry. Alberta unsafe, says Senator. These clowns. See, these are the people in power right now. She says Alberta's unsafe. The lifeblood of Canada right now. The lifeblood. The heart that pumps the money for Canada right now. It's unsafe. She said her personal safety was threatened by public disclosure of the provincial's voters list. The incident was very grave. So quit then. Get out. Senator Paula Simons of Edmonton told the Senate Legal and Constitutional Affairs. The situation in Alberta is very grave. It's a threat to the safety of many Albertans, myself. Quit. Get out. Look at what you've done in Canada. You've been weighed and measured. You've failed. Get out. If you feel unsafe, leave. Take responsibility for what you've done. Get out. Jamming crap down people's throats. And they always have the hotel, right, of how they're so morally superior than you. How dare you rise up and how dare you push back, eh? How dare you?
She looks superior, just an appearance.
She opposes Alberta independence. Earlier sought assurances from the province could not secede without parliamentary approval. That's what they're worried about. All these stories are for that, right? To push people down, to say you're not allowed to speak up. Leave. If you feel unsafe, leave. How many Canadians feel unsafe right now in the streets? How many Canadians feel unsafe when they have to walk to work? How many people unsafe? How many people right now feel that they can't provide for their families because of what you and your party did? How many? Too many. Daniel Smith has said the Assembly of Treaty Chiefs should check themselves after accusing Alberta Premier of potentially committed criminal treason. Again, these are by calling for a separation referendum. Smith said the disgraceful language used by the chiefs has no place in Canada's democracy, and adding that they must show as much respect for her as she shows for them. That's what I mean. They try to shame you into silence. It doesn't matter which group it is. It's all about shaming you into silence, right? Using words like David Eby threw that word out, treason. Maybe look up in a dictionary what treason actually is. Maybe just look it up. Well, just take a look, you know. Just have a look.
We do have the clip. Or is that a different clip?
Oh,
but it's this
clip
press
on the
conference
$100.
anyway.
What's that?
I actually think she performed rather admirably. She didn't take that on the chin. She just basically came out and said, if you don't respect me, I won't respect you. And obviously, check yourselves, disgraceful, undemocratic, etc. Yeah, that's good. And once again, the only politician in Canada with a big pair of brass balls is Danielle Smith. Why is it so often left to her?
Danielle Smith spits truths. And she stands in the fire. She stands in the fire as a media taxer constantly. And this one, here, people are saying she's falling short, but she's offering up $100 energy rebate to Albertans. They'll receive a $100 energy rebate here. as you know, Alberta's got a bit of a windfall now with the price of fuel. We won't play it though, but I mean, a lot of people saying that they should do more, but obviously. Mark Carney's supposed to be in Vancouver tomorrow, or today, I guess. Today with EB about measures to accelerate home building, lower costs. I mean, they got tons of unsold inventory. And of course, there's a FIFA match there. Carney loves his sports, eh? So he's going there for FIFA, right? Do you know what I mean? But, you know, like they're saying that is there a condo bailout coming in Vancouver? Better not be.
So Canada, what was it, Qatar? That's in Vancouver, is it, tomorrow? Is that why? Is he going to go to that game?
I think it's today, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Oh, it is. It's in Vancouver. So is that what he's up to, the cheeky little monkey?
Oh, yeah.
He just wants to go watch the game? So he can spread his bad luck.
I mean, how many sporting events has he gone to? He's basically used the PM role to attend. You know, he drop the puck and do all kinds of stuff. He's like, he's definitely like, that is the narcissism in him, that he's got to be out there, you know, getting attention, guys. Obviously, he didn't get as much attention as he wanted as a goalie, as he played. I think he played in an Ivy League school. Was it Harvard? He played.
Harvard, yeah, but I think he only played like one game or something, or a few games.
So that was obviously still whining about that. Didn't get enough ice time. Here's the latest Angus Reid poll modeled out. Looks like the Conservatives are going to kick EB's ass if they ever get a shot at it. But we shall see, right?
Yeah, that's among decided voters, but there are quite a lot of undecided voters, according to this poll. But yeah, I mean, struggle to see it looking like that. Maybe in the BC Conservatives' wildest dreams. But yeah, it does just seem like, we talk about the laws of thermodynamics. It seems like the laws of the universe dictate that the NDP has to be done, doesn't it? How is it possible? But then again, it felt like that with the Liberals. And yet,
I don't know how they managed that. But
the laws of the universe and got back into power, didn't they?
But here's the problem. I talked about this at the beginning of the show. Listen to this one, Caroline Elliott. I'm going to see if I can get her on. A multi-million-dollar lawsuit has been launched against the BC government after, without warning or compensation, it stripped a company of its mining rights in order to settle a separate legal dispute with the First Nation. And this government actually asked the company to take on the mining project in the first place. Then it negotiated away with the company's property rights in a backroom deal without even involving or telling them. Why would you put billions of dollars at risk in British Columbia? This is not the first one we've showed you. We showed you the other one the other day, the Seabridge one. This is the problem. These are backroom deals. They can't even defend themselves. What are they supposed to do? Do you know what I mean? Like I say, you're going to build a pipeline. You're going to get it to the last mile, and they're going to say, yeah. Like, what CEO in his right mind right now is saying we got to invest in a project in British Columbia?
But it's Canada would be another way to look at that. Because Mark Carney, we looked at his little quote earlier, didn't we, where he said, where it's reliable and consistent or whatever in a world that's anything but, whatever he's actually said, something along those lines. Something about reliability in the context of investment. What the hell's reliable about this? Do you not see that people can actually look at things like this? They don't just listen to a stupid soundbite from Mark Carney. They can actually look at this and then they can take their gigantic pile of money somewhere else. Because if they think, oh, they're just going to strip my rights, I'm going to spend loads of money and they're just going to take away my ability to actually to build this thing or have mining rights. So, you know, like a last minute switcheroo. Does that actually even happen in, you know, Saudi Arabia or something like that? Like a full-blown autocracy like that? Not really. Doesn't really happen in places like that. So why the hell would anybody want to go into Canada when your commercial rights are not protected? This is like acid to investors. This is like you know, it just makes it like untouchable.
We showed you the one just the other day. It was Seabridge, I believe, and it was 15 years in. 15 years in. 2 agreements with 2 First Nations groups done. Environmental assessment done. Spent $1.5 billion already done. And then the courts come back and say, Well, you didn't consult this other First Nations group that has 60 people in it. So your project's on hold until you consult, and they drag it through. And if the timeline expires for their environmental assessment, they have to redo that again. You know how long it takes to do an environmental assessment? I worked in a mine site. Do you know what I mean? And then Frontier Project, tech, I'm going to bring like these billions of dollars. And then, you know, Enbridge has been punished in the past already. How many of these people are willing to get punished again? If you had a strong leader, like if, you know, like I'll just say, if I was the prime minister, I would say the pipeline gets built. If there's any hurdles or anything, Canada will pick up the problem. Do you know what I mean? We'll make sure it gets done, or you have a pocket to reach into. I'll guarantee that it gets done. Because who's coming without a guarantee? Who's coming for this stuff? Like,
especially when all the garbage law is still on the books. All these stupid laws that make this kind of thing possible, they're all there. And there's been no attempt to change that.
This one's weird. Kristi Noem is hiring out her services here. She's signed on with Vancouver mining company, Novared, as an advisory role. Interesting. You know, she kind of lost her job there with Trump's administration. She did about $200 million, $220 million advertising campaign that she didn't get approval for. It was her on a horse or something, and then said she did, and they, you know, I mean, that's what's out there. But look at this Novared though. This is a weird one. Here's Novared. Here's a stock chart. I mean, they don't actually have a mine. They're an exploration company, but I mean, they've moved this thing up based on these kind of news things. I mean, this looks like an old, how they used to do stock promotions. I'm not sure. Like, I mean, they're just doing soil samples. I looked through all their press releases where mining meets intelligence. Earth and the future align, like the next image there. Novared Mining is a mineral exploration company that intends to employ technology for innovative research. Okay.
Seem to be ambitious, at least.
They got a property called Wilmac, a systematically underexplored copper gold. You know how long it takes to get a mine off the ground? I mean, this is a very, what you would call optimistic stock chart. Optimistic, be a good word for it. But interesting that Kristi Noem. I found it interesting. And plus, the stock price seems very high for like no project. I mean, they have a project, but they don't have any. You know what I mean? Like, there's no resource. There's, you know, there's a lot of hope.
Vaporware.
A hope, but here's where the hope ends for many Canadians right now. And this sad story is playing out as Dr. Mona Nemer is flying around the world, sitting in the nice little pods. You've seen those pods. I mean, I'm sure you've walked through a plane, right? Where you walk past the hotel, yeah. and your wife looks at you and says, like, "Why aren't we sitting up here?" And you're saying, "Because we don't want to pay 10 times the flight costs, right? We're sitting in the back with the rest of the people, right? Because there's business class with the pods, and then there's kind of like the premium service ones where they got a bigger seat, and then there's the cattle, right?" And the cattle pay for the people sitting in the pods, right? Hey, the cattle. Think about that. All the people in the back of the plane paid for Dr. Mona Nemer to sit up front. Maybe somebody should go up there and say, "Do you mind if I sit here for a bit? I paid for this. You didn't pay for it. I paid for this." Right? Tell her to shove on back. Shove on back. Or
I'm
maybe,
sure she'd say, "Well, it's unimportant. Doesn't matter really."
And just say, you know, like maybe my mom would like to sit up there, my child would like to sit up there. Maybe you should just move on back. Move on back. If anybody sees her on a plane, just tell her, "We paid for this. Move on back. Get out of here. Pay for your own flight." Here's a Canadian living in his trailer. No, let's play this clip here.
Is not much.
My backyard of sorts, I guess.
But for nearly a year, it's been home for George and his girlfriend.
Well, I was working, and then I suddenly lost work, and I couldn't pay my rent anymore. So it actually just started off with me just staying in my truck.
George's story similar to so many others who find themselves without a home.
My girlfriend works landscaping, and then snow removal in the winter, and work on cars. Yeah, we're hoping to save up into some money to get first and last.
While still working, they say finding a place to rent has not been possible. George says the isolation of the parking lot keeps them safe from unwanted conflict.
The last spot that I was at, the neighbors did. I mean, you see all my windows, they're all still broken from them slinging rocks with a slingshot.
Across the lot, Debbie's situation very similar.
Well, we came here because the rent got boosted up so high since the COVID.
With her husband working full-time, she says the trailer is a good temporary solution.
I'm a lot luckier than other people. They're in their tents and, I got security of the cameras here, the lights. I got my generator for electricity. We can bath, we can shower, everything here.
That's good. So these people are still paying tax, still working. Well, Dr. Mona Niemer there takes their money and sits up front while they live on the side of the road.
It's
and again, we can pull up that immigration chart there. You can put that back up there and ask yourself, why are rents so high in Canada? Why is everything so out of control? It's right there. There's your answer. Suck it up, I guess, right?
Well, somebody's commented here saying, I guess this is what they're talking about, saying like commending that woman for being positive. I think that's what.
Well, a lot of Canadians are. They're positive. They say, "Hey, we're making the best. Making the best out of a bad situation." I mean, most people do. I mean, it's tough doing what Iain and I do, right? Because we got to, we got to look at this. We got to look at this all the time. Like a lot of people just want to be oblivious about it, right? They want to be oblivious about it and pretend it's not happening. Sad reality as it is. And I get a lot of people that reach out to me because they know what I do and they want to share the story. A lot of them don't want to go public with it though because they're embarrassed with what's going on. They're ashamed of what Canada has done for them. And they're just, they think they're the problem. And here it is again. Empire reports Q4 profit and revenue up from a year ago. Raises quarterly dividend. Why? Oligopolies. Open. And it's the these protected oligopolies. We talk about this. They lock up land. They lock up the leases. They have these contracts with like big malls and all kinds of stuff. And the government protects that. Let the American competition in. Get rid of supply management. If you cared about the consumer, if you cared about the Canadian consumer and the average Canadian family, you would scrap Canadian supply management and you would tear up these oligopolies, including the banking oligopoly, the grocery store oligopolies, and the cell phone oligopolies. All of those are the basic needs for Canadians. Tear them up. Say compete. Compete. You'll see the prices come down. Look at this. When grocery prices are so high, and they protect it, how is their revenue up? Like I can see their revenue going up, but like their profits up too, right? So charge less, Sobeys. Hey? And you're the one probably got a bunch of temporary foreign workers too. Not sure, but I'm gonna guess you're gonna say that you needed temporary foreign workers so you could pay them.
Certainly in the supply chain. In terms the packaging and the agriculture and all the rest of it, crops, they will definitely have it in the supply chain, which is all important.
I mean, there's the evidence right there. Empire reports Q4 profit and revenue up from a year ago. Raises quarterly dividend. Who wins? Shareholders. Shareholders win. Who loses? That's right, you. That's right. Temporary foreign workers likely working there in the supply chain. You know what I mean? Like cheap labor. So an attack on labor again. Policies. We're going to leave all this bill. We got a constitutional lawyer coming on at 11:30. We got a lot to talk about. Bill C9, Bill C34, Bill C22. That's what the government seems to want to focus on. All these bills. And all these bills courtesy of 5 floor crossers. And you can go down to that for a second. We'll come back to that. Go down further. Right there. These people did it. The manufactured democracy. here in Canada that manufactured democracy. Backroom deals. Canadians suffer. And they all voted for these bills. They shut down committees. They shut down transparency. The Canadian public did not vote for this. Did not vote for this. It's the most undemocratic thing ever. I mean, we're getting all these Canadian freedoms are being threatened. And it was different if Canadians voted for this. They didn't vote for this. Mark Carney did it in a backroom deal.
Five honest faces.
And you know, like Daniel Smith's calling it treasonous. These are threats to democracy. These are literally threats to democracy. We had the Global Traveler sent you and I an email. Your friend there, was it Douglas Carswell? Is that what his name? The MP?
Yeah.
UK MP? They got him on GB News there talking about, I think it's soccer, isn't it? They got him on talking about the soccer game.
I didn't actually see the video, but
yeah,
I can imagine it.
He said, because he crossed, but he called a by-election right away. He said, because that's what you should do. You should put it back to the voter. You should put it back to your riding and ask them if it's okay. Chris, Michael, let's see, Matt, Lori, and Marilyn, put it to the voter.
It's the most like elementary ingredient of a democratic system, isn't it?
But look what they're jamming through. Like Mark Carney should be ashamed of himself. All these bills that they're pushing through, like there should be so much shame running through him for what he knows. He doesn't have the mandate to do this. He knows the Canadian public didn't vote for this. His victory, his manufactured majority, like his Stanley Cup, if you want to look at it that way in a sports analogy, has a big asterisk beside it. Cheater. Look at this one here. We talked about organized crime. We had Sam Cooper on. Cigarette factory on Six Nations reserve run by non-Indigenous criminals and staffed by foreign nationals. He alluded to that too. There's a whole bunch of organized crime hiding in different places. We saw that drug bust a cigarette bust and drug bust. It wasn't by Indigenous people, but it was on Indigenous lands, cigarettes, and all kinds of things, right? Like organized crime has moved in. Why not, eh? And then we saw that too, that they're using youth in there too, because they know that the youth laws here in Canada are just like, oh yeah, that's okay. It's all right. It's all right.
Well, it's exploiting loopholes. That's what that is as well. The First Nations thing, that's just like a loophole. It's a quirk of the Canadian system. That you have these jurisdictions that the political system, the cultural system, is extremely reluctant to regulate and inspect and look at. And is, every time they even try to get close to maybe scrutinizing it, then you start hearing talk about genocide and residential schools. And it's like, okay. And then criminals naturally think, oh, great, there's a loophole. In we go. Kids don't get charged for crimes. So, yeah, they're like, oh, fantastic. And they also get to maintain anonymity. I mean, loopholes will be exploited relentlessly by these people because they're very much like viruses, aren't they, in that way? They will exploit any little hole in your defenses.
We got CSIS here. CSIS Canada put out this thing. You may be at risk of recruitment from foreign intelligence services. We should spend more time on this because this thing is actually, we maybe get Brian Isted on to talk about this because China's military intelligence services use Western online job platforms to lure Five Eyes nationals with access to sensitive information. Okay, right? Chinese military services are using an increasingly wide array of professional networking sites and online job platforms to target Five Eyes government and military personnel. Nice. Anybody that has security clearance, military personnel, people with indirect or peripheral access to government information, and they use very attractive people to do it, and you know what I mean? Like use whatever they can to compromise you.
Honey traps.
Honey traps, yeah. Honey badgers, honey traps. We'll spend
But
more
just
time with this
today,
because this is. We'll see if we can get Brian Isted on this because this is interesting.
but talking about Five Eyes, another member of the Five Eyes, Britain, is being remorselessly targeted by China, and they've just sentenced 2 men to prison, Chai Leung Wai and Biu Yuan, who worked for the border services or something like that, and they were tracking Hong Kongers, like, because you know how Hong Kong, they were given special visas. They also were in Canada. They were given special visas after the Communist Party decided to stand on their throats and extinguish whatever kind of freedom they had in Hong Kong. When that happened, a lot of Hong Kongers came to the West, places like the UK, and these scoundrels like went into the database, got the names of like democracy activists and stuff, and gave it to China, gave it to the commies. I mean, the whole that's, if anything, quite a sort of minor example of a breach, but there are catastrophic breaches across the whole Five Eyes, across the West, and I don't know how seriously Canada takes it. I mean, if you look at Sam Cooper's reporting, not very seriously would be the answer.
Holly Doe and Blacklock's here. We talked about this yesterday extensively on the decriminalization in BC. You know, and we showed you the health minister of Canada saying that that it was a success. We're going to see if we can get Eleanor Sturko on. We're going to reach out to her and see if we can get her back on. We'll talk about that more in length. Just trying to move stuff along quicker here. Pamela Wallin, former broadcaster, is really trying to defend MAID for mental illness. It's just wild that she goes to town on this. But again, in the interest of time, I'm not going to do it. But these next 2 stories I want to kind of dwell on a little bit here. They're American, but apply liberal versus Democrat. Liberal, Democrat, basically the same thing. Sorry, my nose is itchy. This is CNN. This is my favorite stats guy. The stats guy. Listen to this stats guy.
Like are Americans feeling this morning? With us now, CNN chief data analyst.
We will always remember Lexington and Concord, people. We will always remember it here on CNC.
Patriots Day versus the 4th. We know which one is more important, but the meaning of the 4th. When we ask voters about this, what do most of them say at this point?
This, to me, is one of the most stunning divides that we have seen. You know, we're talking about polarization in politics. It even comes down to what you believe July 4th actually is. Like, what does July 4th mean to you? Celebrate America, friends and family time. Among Republicans, what do you see? You see the clear majority say it's a time to celebrate America, 65%. Among Democrats, however, the plurality disagree. Look at that. What do you see? Friends and family time at 42% versus just 24% who say that what it means most to them is to celebrate America. So even on the basic question of what July 4th means to you, we have Republicans on one end saying celebrate America, more of them say that, and Democrats on the other end saying that it means more to them to have time with friends and family.
What do they say about the flag?
Yeah, okay, so what do they say about the flag? Even on the basic level of flag, look at this. Look at how we have an increasing polarization on this issue. We'll display the flag on July 4th, the American flag. Back in July of 2001, look at this. You had 68% of Republicans, 65% of Democrats saying that they would, in fact, display the flag on July 4th. You come over to this side of the screen, Republicans basically are where they were 25 years ago, right? 64%. But look at that Democratic percentage, absolutely plummeting. Just 27% of Democrats.
That's good. These parties have been hijacked by extreme, like Godsad's book, Suicidal Empathy. That's what it is. It's just like it's on the bestseller list. I think like 4 weeks in a row now. People are reading it. My wife's reading it right now, so I'll get the rundown from her. But it's the Liberal Party and the Democratic Party have been hijacked by an extreme faction of that party. It's been hijacked because I would have thought I was a liberal back with Jean Chrétien. I would have, You know, Jean Chrétien, I wasn't a big fan of Stephen Harper at the time. But I mean, it's been hijacked. Same as the NDP. The NDP, when my dad was part of the NDP or whatever, that's not today's NDP. The NDP is like some extreme version of like lunacy. Well, they don't even love their country. What's that?
Exactly. If you stop loving your own country, you can't even pretend to be mainstream, can you? I mean, you're completely lost. You're completely fringe freaks.
And look at this. Here's Tristan Hopper pushing out this, and he says, because Keir Starmer is expected to ban VPNs, as people say they'll use VPNs to get around. And who's that fellow that he's referencing there?
Ceausescu is communist or kind of communist dictator in Romania.
Good job, Keir. Slow clap for you, Keir. Good job. And here's this one.
Another bad comparison, yeah? You don't want to be compared to a commie.
And here's Ukraine hits Moscow with largest ever drone attack. Like, you know, they do that a few more times, and either this thing escalates into something massive or it gets the end, right? Like, it might get messy before it ends, but... I mean, I know I put this in the middle. What's that? Go ahead.
This little window, I don't know how long it's going to last, but this window where the Russians can't defend against these drones is, you know, it's proven to be quite deadly, isn't it, for the Russians? Yeah. But eventually one assumes they will develop defenses.
Or they react with bigger, you know what I mean? Like playing with fire. So hopefully, you know, like I hope Trump goes in there and says, okay, that's enough, right? Enough from both of you. Let's just call it a day. Because I mean, this could turn into something a lot bigger than anybody ever wants it to be. And here's something as well, and I'll say this, and I'm playing this because you can substitute the parties because they're very similar. Because if you substitute Democrats for liberals, it seems very similar. Play this clip here from J.D. Vance.
Party bosses, as that party has just become anti-everything that is good. They're anti-women playing in women's sports. They want men to play in women's sports, the craziest thing. They've become anti-Semitic in the Democratic Party. They become anti-Christian in the Democratic Party. They become anti-white in the Democratic Party. And what I love about the Republican Party is whether you're black or white, whether you're a Jew, a Christian, or a person of no faith, the thing about the Republican Party is that if you work hard, you play by the rules, and you love this country, you are welcome on our team. That's not Swazi, but it's the people in this room.
Sound familiar? Anti-white, anti-family, you know, like it's just, you know, the kid, you don't have rights over your kids. Sounds very familiar.
It's the progressive ideology. It's the progressive religion. You know, it's not like it's unique to America. It's spread out across certainly the English-speaking world. It's an infectious disease.
Well, we do have someone's salute today. We have a really big salute. I don't know. Your buddy there, Winston Churchill. He delivered that speech in the finest hour. Do you know the text of that speech? Do you remember it like word for word?
I mean, not off by heart, but I know the gist.
Hey? The Battle of
On
France.
this battle depends the survival of Christian civilization.
Keep going.
Little did you know, Winnie, Christian civilization was going down the hoop after that war.
The whole fury and the might of the enemy. You can do this way better than me. Come on. Upon it depends our British life. Imagine that speech needs to be said now, hey?
Hitler knows that he will have to break us in this island or lose the war. Maybe, Winnie. Who knows? Who knows if that was true? So, I mean, if some of this is kind of hard to read, isn't it? If we can stand up to him, all Europe may be freed, and the life of the world may move forward into broad, sunlit uplands. That's not where we're at right now in Europe, Mr. Churchill. It didn't quite turn out like that.
I think this part here still stands. Let us therefore embrace ourselves to our duties and so bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will say this was our finest hour. This is where we have to push back. We have to push back. Iain and I are pushing back. There's lots of other independents pushing back, but the mainstream media not doing their job. They have failed Canada. Unfollow them, silence them, post this stuff underneath them, do whatever you can, but stop listening to them. They have lied too many times.
If you're wondering how long the British Empire that was in 1940, that speech. If you're wondering how long the British Empire lasted, it was not 1,000 years, but it was about 14 years, 16 years, up till Suez Crisis, probably. That's when the British Empire sort of de facto died. So it lasted a good, hard 16 years. Whereas Churchill was expecting another millennium of British imperial power.
They were supplanted by the
Indeed, they were by the people, the people that he worshipped and where his mother was from, the United States.
Yeah, by the Americans, which were former English. So
well, he had that attitude. Yeah, he had the idea that like it'll continue in that way. The British spirit, the British Empire, whatever you want to say, the Christian civilization, etc. That will all continue through the United States. I mean, fair enough. That's something that you can say, but again, it hasn't really worked out that way. America doesn't look at Britain as that kind of figure. America looks at Britain as just another country.
I want to put this to you. The reason that America supplanted the British Empire with the same people, it's basically the same people left, maybe some better people or whatever you want to call it. But it's what they stood on. They stood on vast resources, geography, the vast resources of the United States of America, the vast resources that are like the United States is blessed with vast resources, like absolutely vast resources. They got like a river for trade. They have been blessed with so much like natural wealth, right? Where England is, literally poor compared to the United States of America. And then if you look at Canada, we've been blessed as well. We don't have as much diversity and we don't have as much sunshine. You know what I mean? A lot of our blessings, we got a thin strip of their blessing, but a lot of the resources are there. And yet we squander ours. Wild, eh?
The Americans also stayed out of the two catastrophic wars of the 20th century for quite a while, for a number of years. And that was of enormous advantage. And the countries that fought those wars from the beginning to the end had to pay enormous amounts of money to the United States in loans and whatnot. So there's something to be said for stepping back and letting other countries fight first and then popping in when it's convenient. They did, there was a lot of wise decision making of that kind.
And get through a couple of things, because Marty's going to be calling in here in a second here. Battle of Waterloo. Napoleon Bonaparte there, decisively defeated by British forces under the Duke of Wellington and Prussian troops, 1815. And also the 1812 War of 1812 begins. That was a short skirmish there. Burned down the White House.
Few years.
A lot of Canadians want to take credit for that, but it was basically British forces, right?
There's some locally raised troops and what they called native troops as well.
Yep.
But, yeah.
1778, British evacuate Philadelphia. British troops under the Sir Henry Clinton, not Hillary's cousins left, abandoned Philadelphia.
I don't think that's a connection.
And in 1928, Amelia Earhart crossed the Atlantic. And in 1983, Sally Ride became the first American woman in space. We talked about the Russian girl in space there just the other day. And it's your buddy. His birthday today.
It is, yeah. Maka. Who's often called a boomer, archetypal boomer, but he's not actually a boomer if you look at the year he was born. He was born in the silent generation, I think is the name of that generation.
We're going to go to a break here, like 60 seconds maybe, as we bring in Marty Moore here. And then Iain and I will be back. We're going to try anyway. It's what? Can you just put up the intro then that we do?
Welcome to The Really Big Show with Jim Csek and Iain Burns. Welcome to The Really Big Show with Jim Csek and Iain Burns. Welcome to The Really Big Show with Jim Csek and Iain Burns. Welcome to The Really Big Show with Jim Csek and Iain Burns. Welcome to The Really Big Show with Jim Csek and Iain Burns. Welcome to The Really Big Show with Jim Csek and Iain Burns.
I'm Jim Csek. Hi, Marty. You're live with us here.
Good to see you, Jim. Thank you.
You're live with us here on The Really Big Show. We're going to size you a bit because you're a little bigger than us. But
Okay.
we thank you for
You go
joining us
ahead.
here.
Cut me down to size, Jim.
There we go. Cut you down to size. We're glad you're joining us because we had a whole segment here. And it's Iain as well here. Iain with us. And thank you. The Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, Julian set us up with you, which is great. Thank you for that as well, Julian. Lots going on though, eh? All these bills, C-22, C-34, like, what's your thoughts on all these bills, just as a general oversight of all the bills that are kind of coming out all at once, and they're kind of all, kind of like maybe one by itself isn't so bad, but when you put them all together, it seems pretty scary, and a lot of people starting to push back on it.
Yeah, they're starting to push back, but it seems that the government is ramming it through before people can actually mobilize properly to push back. For example, Bill C-22 was essentially rammed through the committee process last night. I got 50-something pages of amendments on my desk this morning. And then you have the AI strategy that was recently announced. No one's had a lot of time to review that before you had Bill C-34 and essentially all of the online harms, government censorship, creation of a new digital safety commission. And then you have Bill C-36 dealing with additional matters relating to, taking privacy law out of the independent sphere of the officer of parliament and into a government appointed commission. So just a lot of matters going on that this government has chosen in this time of a recession to focus on invading Canadians' privacy in an unprecedented way, and doing so, silencing debate, and even in these bills, and we can get into it, ordering secrecy in the process itself. This doesn't sound like a good faith effort to protect Canadians from, quote, harm. It sounds a little bit worse than that, and I think we should unpack it, and it deserves careful scrutiny. And the government is not giving the time for that, at least in regard to Bill C-22.
Yeah, and then if we even go back further, there's the Online News Act, and then there's the Online Streaming Act. All these things seem to work together to kind of like censor Canadians, to censor any kind of a dissent or disturb their social cohesion as they see it. And it is, I mean, we've had John Carpay on so many times and talking about this as well. But it seemed with this manufactured majority, C-22 is something that they really wanted. Like you said, during a recession, when there's so many other priorities you would think Canadians would have, why is the Liberal government's priorities your rights and your freedoms?
Yeah, and I mean, thinking about the online space, I mean, there's been so much freedom recognized through the internet. And I mean, especially once you had a non Neolithic corporate establishment uh, kind of disestablished when, you know, Elon Musk purchased X, you have other apps and online spaces, you have Signal that allows people to have end-to-end encryption away from government surveillance. And, you know, Bill C-22 goes directly at some of that privacy that Canadians would expect the internet to provide to them. And the government, of course, always has a rational reason for doing irrational things. So in order to break up the privacy of all of your internet communications, they're going to say it's necessary to stop some bad actor in some criminal investigation. That's their justification for violating the privacy of every Canadian under Bill C-22.
You've got all those amendments and you've got a lot of paper on your desk. So what does it mean, like, to the average, maybe if you could break it down in layman's terms, what does it mean to the average Canadian? Like, what should they be worried about in Bill C-22?
Well, Bill C-22 has two parts to it. And the second part is really where we get into essentially a backdoor mandatory to be created on internet communications. And this backdoor doesn't exist for many elements. And in fact, that's a strength of internet communications, not a weakness. So for example, in Signal, you send a message, the company Signal can't see your message. The only person that can see your message with an encrypted software is the end user. And what this bill purports to do, and just noting, Jim, most of the meat of these bills is in the form of regulations or orders thereafter. We don't know to whom the bills will apply, and we don't know how they will apply, other than that they allow for the imposition of data scraping mechanisms, of essentially surveillance mechanisms on all of these electronic service providers' software and hardware in order to facilitate potential criminal or CSIS investigations at a later point. So by doing that, and by having the ability to do that, and also the requirement that metadata be stored for now 6 months, the government has essentially said any Canadian's otherwise secure communications is now subject to government mandated insecurity. We don't know the extent that that insecurity will cause, and we don't know to whom it will be caused. And one of the most nefarious aspects of Bill C-22 is that you will not know to whom the security breaches are ordered, because those government orders are mandatorily secret pursuant to Section 15 of the proposed new act. And so if that sounds vague, it's because a lot of it is vague, and the only thing that we know that is clear is that by default, every order that the minister issues to a security company, to a tech company, will be secret as a default rule. So how is that for obfuscating the digital privacy spaces of Canadians in their communications?
We're seeing a lot of pushback from the big tech companies, and I just got this other one that we were talking about. Chris Pavlovski, that's from Rumble. That's the CEO of Rumble. And we've seen it from Toby Lutke. We've seen it from, I think, Apple's pushback. I think Google's pushback. Many of the giants says, you know, we're not building you a backdoor. We're not interested in it. And someone have said they will just leave Canada if this is pushed on them.
And we saw that with, I believe it was the Online News Act, where the government was going to mandate Facebook to essentially, you know, turn over a bunch of revenues to the government's discretion. And Facebook just says, forget it. We'll stop allowing Canadians to share their views and comment on news stories in Canada. And, you know, that has deprived all of the millions of Canadians who use that as their source for information, their source for communication, and a public square that it is, deprived them of that opportunity to communicate online.
And it choked
because
off
of the
independent
government
media. And it choked off close to 100 outlets have failed, and it's choked off independent media. We saw our revenues drop in half and our traffic plummet from that thing. And it really hurt independent media. It didn't hurt the government-funded media because obviously they just got more money.
Right. Yeah, we see with this bill, and just go back to Bill C-22, it allows the government, the minister, by order, to exempt any company that would otherwise be captured in the regulations from those regulations. So the government now has the ability to pick winners and losers. And by the way, Jim and Ian, that order exempting a company is going to be completely secret. So the government will secretly be picking winners and losers. And it kind of harkens back to almost a theme with this government. If you go back to the budget bill, I believe it was Bill C-15 back in the fall, you saw the ability of the government to essentially exempt any company in Canada from essentially any law except the criminal code in Canada. Now that was trimmed back slightly, but still vast powers of the government to rule as a despot. Not a rule of law for everyone, not a common, agreed upon, debated, passed by your elected representatives rule, but rather the government in power being able to exempt those with connections to power from the rules imposed by a bureaucracy. And a bureaucracy that seems to be marching to the beat of a different drum. The tune of this drum, or the rhythm of it, can be echoed across the country. You can see New Zealand, you can see Australia, the United Kingdom, the EU. They're all marching to a very similar beat these days, Jim. And I don't think it's the beat that the grassroots Canadian who's struggling to support their family, to pay rent, to pay gas bills that are so high in a country blessed with all of this natural resource wealth. Is the beat coming from the voters, or where is it coming from? Because this push to rush through this legislation at this time doesn't strike me as a democratic response. And the silencing of MPs to debate. Last night, we had the spectacle of MPs voting on amendments that the public was not able to know what was in those amendments. They were just numbers. Imagine that. How's that for a transparent government? How are we supposed to have rational consideration about the infringement? There's no doubt this is a massive infringement of Canadians' privacy. And once we get into Bill C-34, we'll talk about Canadians' freedom of expression. But no doubt it's a violation of Canadian privacy. And we're not allowed to know the amendment numbers and what's in those amendments and who was voting for what in order to hold anybody accountable for this.
I'm going to turn you over to Ian in 1 second here. I just want to ask, when you said pick winners and losers, so you're saying like X could be the loser and Blue Sky would be the winner?
Oh, Ian and Jim, how would the government ever do such an ideological choice? Have we ever seen it before? Oh, yes, we have. In fact, that's already the case in other jurisdictions. And they've built this ability to pick winners and losers, yes, into their exact same type of legislation that the UK and Australia, for example, are pushing as well. So that's exactly the kinds of decisions that one might expect. But don't worry, Jim, they have mandated it that you will not be allowed to know that they've picked the winners and losers, because that's, again, Section 15 of this Part 2 of Bill C-22.
Ian?
I'm quite interested in the sort of cases that this will be used in, because the government itself says the obvious things like terrorism and things like that. I mean, okay, that's very much how they've been advertising it. But it also lists domestic violence, which I find quite interesting. I mean, are you aware of any other sort of, because that's not obvious to me that you would need to kind of like hack somebody's phone in a domestic violence case, that you would need these special powers to do that. I mean, you'd think that was covered by current legislation, wouldn't you? But are there any other sort of unusual cases, or cases where you might not think you would need this kind of bazooka to get a prosecution?
Well, this is exactly what you would expect a rational government to do, is it would highlight cases in which existing law powers were not able to satisfy the law enforcement needs and demands of Canadians. In other words, we weren't able to capture or identify this group, this terrorist group, whatever it was, because we didn't have this authority. And therefore, of necessity, we have to lower the burden of proof. We have to have non-judicially authorized demands for data about Canadians from their service providers. Well, I don't believe I've ever seen a compelling story for any of this. What is the information that we can't already use existing tools to get the data that would be necessary? Judicial warrants, ex parte warrants, these things happen all the time. And that's the oversight. But this bill, it gives the ability of police to just go to your service provider and demand, does Iain Burns use this provider? And they have to give a response to that, or $5,000 fine. Just, and what are the grounds? Is it, reasonable grounds to believe that Iain Burns is a terrorist or something? No, it's just reasonable grounds to suspect. A low threshold. And so we've lowered the threshold and we've made it non-judicially, there's no judicial oversight in that process initially, and we risk fines. And when we're talking about tech companies that are often regulated by the government anyway, and then of course we get into the Digital Safety Commission, which has massive powers to fine you out of existence, well then you're going to do whatever the government tells you to do. We saw this kind of thing recently, for example, with how the government leaned on the banks in Canada during the Freedom Convoy. There was no national emergency. That's been settled. There was no, imminent lawful violence or anything like that. But they, and the Chief Justice of Canada, viewed it as holding the city of Ottawa hostage because you were having a peaceful protest that the Prime Minister didn't like and would refuse to address. Okay, so then you just lean on the banks, and the banks were having to give over information to the police, and the banks voluntarily and happily seized people's accounts. And the court looked at that and said that's a violation of Section 8. Well, right now we are essentially getting into that territory. Every one of these questions is going to be a violation of Section 8. Oh, and by the way, you're not going to know about it.
You mentioned Australia and I think the UK as well earlier, and how they all these countries seem to be converging in this way. I don't know if this is outside of your bailiwick per se, but do you know much about the United States in this particular area? Like, how do we compare to the US? Because I know they've had a lot of controversies there, haven't they? Like the Patriot Act and stuff like that. But do they have anything like this there?
Well, I think the issue with the United States is maybe a little bit deeper than I'm capable of dissecting. Because, for example, you have what the NSA was found to be doing in some of the leaks, which was far beyond what was authorized by law. And there are laws which authorize surveillance on out-of-state or out-of-country individuals, non-citizens, were being used to surveil citizens. So we know that these laws, once passed, can be abused. A foreign concept, perhaps, to some in Canada. But once you allow Bill C-22's enabling of and requiring of tech companies to install and test surveillance technology that can get information, and this is language in the bill, from their networks, well, will it ever be abused, Iain? Oh, yes, we know that, the biggest, best quote-unquote democracy in the world abused it regularly through the NSA. So I do understand in my very cursory knowledge that the United States has not pushed for these same measures at the same time. It's not one of, I think it's 14 countries that are literally pushing these bills all right now. And again, that's just observation, but the United States is not one of them currently doing that. They do have some big issues down there, not to maybe it hasn't quite gotten to Trump's desk yet.
Yeah. I'll ask you one more, then chuck you back to Jim. I'm quite interested in Bill C-9 and how that perhaps interfaces with 22. Is it possible that, because there's quite a bit in 22, isn't there, about revealing an anonymous internet user, isn't there? And often a lot of the sort of hate crimes are online. I would say probably the majority of them nowadays must originate there, like Instagram, stuff like that, abusive posts or whatever. Are they going to be combined, these two laws, do you think? So you can unveil someone's anonymity and then prosecute them with a hate crime for like a post that they've made on YouTube or something?
No doubt whatsoever. And again, it shows the priorities of this government. The priorities of this government at this time is to police the speech of Canadians. Bill C-9, in all of its wisdom, saw fit to remove a defense from the criminal code that was essential to the upholding of the constitutionality of the whole concept of criminal hate speech. Remove that defense, which is the good faith discussion of a religious text. Remove that defense from the criminal code at this time. And that defense had never successfully been used in Canada. Not once. Not one individual accused of hate speech had ever successfully said, I am not guilty of hate speech because I'm using this religious defense. Never once. And that was the priority of this government, to ram that through. I mean, to see where our elected leaders and our appointed leaders in the Senate, they tried to expand that to also include residential school denialism as part of the hate. So I mean, it was a 7-9 vote at the committee. Thankfully, the Senate actually voted that out of the bill. But the idea that you had to remove this defense of a good faith discussion of a religious text from the criminal code, and then essentially all of your online anonymity can be gone now if Bill C-22 gets passed, because they can just say, does this individual use your service? Give us his name, address, and coordinates, and then they can go right to your door.
Wow.
It kind of vaguely seems like we're trying to emulate the British approach to speech.
Yep.
We have somewhat similar laws. We have somewhat similar laws to England, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, England is prosecuting more people for speech crimes than the Soviet Russia. Well, I shouldn't say Soviet Russia, but the KGB guy running it, and the UK is outdoing them in policing speech there. We've had similar laws, but we've had the restraint in this country from prosecuting opinions and speech and calling it hate. But we have an increasing portion of this country that is willing to view their ideological opponents' positions as hate. I mean, we saw the Ontario Prosecutor's Department at the Court of Appeal in Ontario essentially argue that anyone advocating for a Christian approach to sexuality was arguing for the extermination of the homosexual community. And we happen to represent a group of Canadians who are homosexual and happen to follow a religious creed, and they are intervened in the court saying, well, this would say that we, following our own religious beliefs, are advocating for our own annihilation, which is insane. But that is how our legal system was being urged to apply the hate speech provisions. And so we are living in an age where the priority of some is to police the speech of others, when the realities around us, the needs around us, the economic, the physical, the social needs of our communities are great. But yet our overlords here are deciding that policing our speech is the most important thing. So as a litigator, as a constitutional litigator, funded by the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, it gives me a lot of concern, but it also looks like it could be a very busy time ahead when these laws are getting rammed through. And if they're not going to be scrutinized at the parliamentary level by your elected representatives, well, they must be scrutinized in the courts. And unfortunately, it looks like that's where this is all going to have to head.
Yeah. Or, sorry to interrupt, Jim, but recently it seems, and the very final backstop is somebody like Marco Rubio. Like, the Americans start putting pressure on Britain, particularly. We've talked quite a bit about Britain. J.D. Vance, Rubio, they're pretty relentless in their pressure on the British when it comes to hate crimes and speech crimes, or whatever you want to say. Like, that is almost like that's like the final adjudicator, isn't it? And they have even more leverage over Canada, you would think, than the British.
Well, I mean, we are, as much as we'd love to sit here and talk about, the speech of our neighbors, apparently that's what the parliamentary officer needs to be focused on. We do have CUSMA about to expire, and we're literally talking about American tech companies who will be forced to leave Canada or jeopardize the encryption of their entire networks, possibly. And again, there are provisions that have sort of done some window dressing, saying we won't require you to really jeopardize all of your encryption, Hopefully that holds up, but it's essentially going to have to be dealt with in the courts because there's too much conflicting information on this and requirements and regulations. So we're planning to regulate a bunch of U.S. tech companies at the same time that we are, asking the Americans to respect the Canadian approach to, milk and dairy and eggs and things like that, and how we, tariff Americans 300% on those issues. So, I mean, look, if you're an American negotiator who's already, I believe, leaned on the Canadians recently when it came to some expropriation of funds from U.S. tech companies, and the government, backed down shortly thereafter. I think Carney realized he had to cancel that, or he was going to get something he didn't want to see coming. So, yeah, I think there is a realistic possibility that the CUSMA negotiations become a very significant factor in how much of the American tech companies are getting regulated in Canada, which is insane. As Canadians, we have constitutional rights. We have the right to privacy in this country. We have freedom of expression. And we have to rely on Donald Trump to respect our freedoms more than our own elected leaders? This is insanity. This is utter insanity from a free and democratic society, which is what we call ourselves in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Ian and I have said that many times with the Online News Act, Bill C-18. We said the only people that are going to come and rescue us from the oppression here, because we can't get our information on Facebook, and that's where we had the majority of our audience, and they took that away from us. And at the same time, the Liberal government spends money on Facebook advertising because they said it's too important of a platform to ignore because that's where Canadians get their news. And you're just like, am I living in catch-22 and in madness? It's almost insanity. And it's selecting the winners and losers where I want to really get to, is because Mark Carney has stood at the podium many times, as many Liberals have, and have targeted X because they see X as this. Because when Elon Musk purchased X, it changed the media landscape in the United States as well, because they were all censoring. They were kowtowing to the Biden administration. That was Facebook and YouTube, and X was doing it. And when he bought X, I mean, you got to remember, they deplatformed a sitting United States president at the time, right? They all deplatformed a sitting president of the United States. When he bought X and he put Donald Trump back on X, and then the rest of them just followed suit, right? Then Zuckerberg, and then the rest of them did the same thing. And Elon Musk is seen as a threat. Obviously, he's spoken out against Keir Starmer, and that. Do you see them targeting X in this? That's why they put that law in there where they can pick winners and losers. Like, oh, blue sky is great. X is like where the devil lives.
I think it would be naive to think that it won't be used to target the platforms that allow for the ideologically diverse content that they don't want. That harms their political interests. Just to identify a topic we haven't covered too much, the creation of a massive bureaucracy similar to the CRTC, but now to regulate all of our internet use in Canada, the Digital Safety Commission, which will be appointed by the Prime Minister and his cabinet. So political appointees overseeing all the regulation of companies, able to impose massive fines, have secret hearings, all of the Star Chamber things that you would expect from another commission. We know the human rights commissions and how wonderfully down the middle they are in their approach to life and Canadians' expression. So we get another commission, massive responsibilities, massive powers over regulating content, and as Bill C-36 does, now regulating your privacy rights, which is just bizarre. The federal government's coming to take away your privacy rights. They're going to create a commission that now has the ability to protect or sign off on your privacy interests, which is, that's just too cute by half. And how are we not to expect an ideological bent, even if it's just implicit? It doesn't even have to be intentional. It's just going to be the way it is because you have political appointees with those responsibilities. How will they exercise them?
And it seems almost intentional to do all these bills separately. It's like a spider web, so it's really hard to get to weave through, right? C-22, 9, 36, 18, 34, all these different things. And it's just really hard to kind of even for the average person to kind of wrap their head around. And you think about C-36. Were they going to mandate that they keep the data for what, 6 months or something like that? They want you to keep the data. Was a year a while?
That is C-22, and they've just amended that last night.
Oh, right. That's
from,
C-22.
They amended it last night from 1 year of metadata retention now to 6 months of metadata retention. Now, we know that it includes transmission data, but we don't actually know to what extent all of the metadata, like what exactly is going to be into the metadata. We'll find out after they pass the bill. As a famous legislative process once said, we'll know what's in the bill after we pass it. But in Canada, that's actually what happens, because the bill is allowing everything to be decided by, Minister Gary and his Department of Public Safety, or the regulations. Yeah, so we're going to have ministerial orders that are secret, and then regulations, which thankfully have to be published in the Gazette.
And it's the same group of people that have now ordered their own bureaucracy to delete all their data after 15 days. Isn't that right, Iain? Delete all your Teams meetings and all your data and your emails in 15 days so that, when someone replies for a FOI, oh no, that's been deleted. It's crazy.
And that kind of information, Jim, is incredibly important when you come to judicially review a decision, for example. And we haven't really talked about this aspect, but these bills have incredibly tight timeframes for any judicial oversight. So normally in Canada, when a decision is made by a statutory delegate, so they have a responsibility under some legislation or regulation to make a decision. If you don't like the decision, in federal court, you can take 30 days and you can review the decision of a federal bureaucrat. Okay, 30 days. Pretty tight time frame. Lots of people miss it, Jim. Lots of people miss that time frame. What does this law do? You have 15 days to get that done. And I was looking under, was it Bill C-22 as well? Some of them are running into my head, but down to 5 days in some cases, or 10 days in some cases, to file your court application to review the orders, or you lose the rights. That is not the mark of a transparency of a government. And just to go back to that point about, canceling your messages, I brought a challenge to the federal government. You might recall the Canada Summer Jobs Program. They, imposed this big, broad requirement that everybody agree with the federal Liberals' platform views on abortion and sexual and gender rights and privileges. And so, of course, that one went to court. The next year, however, almost the same amount of non-ideologically aligned organizations lost their funding as well. So we took them to court and we said, look, you're discriminating in these decisions. You're not doing it fairly. Well, when I go to court, I get a court order that the government give me all their records on the information. And what's in the record? Well, the record says here, somebody in the government said, well, this summer camp that's been part of the Canada Summer Jobs, program for the odd 20 years, well, they have controversial church beliefs. And that was one line in a box, and that was the end of their application. And I took that to court, and Justice Mosley reviewed that, and he's like, this is insane. There's no rationality for this. You can't just kick someone out because you think their beliefs are controversial. That's not a legal standard in the best of times. And if it was, then we have to talk about freedom of religion. So he punted the entire decision of the federal government and ordered solicitor-client costs against them. Why? Because of the information that I got from the federal government records. So if they're deleting their records, they're probably deleting it for a reason. So there's no possibility that happens again to them.
Let's talk a little bit about Bill C-34, because they're using the children, Mark Miller there, using the children, politicizing children, and he says that's why we're using children, so they can't be politicizing, just like you're literally using children to politicize this. Bill C-34, mandatory age verification, again, just like you said, New Zealand, United Kingdom, Australia, all falling in line, Macron, they all seem to be following the same line. It's just like after COVID, this stuff seemed to happen, like for certain things, and the United States was doing it before as well. The administration has changed out, and now that administration pushes back against it. What's going on with C-34, and what should Canadians be worried about? Because on the surface, it sounds great. You're protecting children, but if you dig into it, it seems a lot more sinister than that.
Well, like Bill C-34 has a lot of moving parts. If you recall Bill C-63 from a couple of yeyears ago, Bill C-34 is essentially Bill C-63, bringing in the Digital Safety Commission. But then they've added on this new thing, which is we're going to restrict the ability of Canadians to go online without identifying themselves and their age. Okay, so that just it's not about children now. It's about every Canadian who goes on the internet has to identify themselves and their age. They have to be able to prove that they are above the age. And I think the age right now is listed as 16. Okay, so at 16, how are we going to verify that? You're going to hold up your driver's license and then have facial recognition software look at your face and verify that it's the same face in the driver's license. And okay, so you just gave away all of your essential information that you use for banking and all sorts of things. I know my wife got her driver's license stolen one time, and someone bought a car in her name with that information. I mean, powerful information that you can get. So are you going to have to do that? Or maybe the government will make it really simple, Jim, and they'll just create a digital ID and they'll run the entire system for you. Wouldn't that be wonderful? A digital ID that tracks every time you go on the internet, every site you go to, and just verifies your age politely and in the background for you. Wouldn't that be great?
China's got that system already.
And facial recognition just in those edge cases. So what we're talking about is not what I as a parent need to grapple with, right? I have 3 children. I have another one on the way. And I, as a parent, have a responsibility for my child's screen time. No one should ever doubt that. As a parent, if you're putting an iPad in a baby's face, that's on you. And if we don't think that's appropriate, if we think that might even be criminal in some cases, okay, well, let's have a societal discussion on what parents should or shouldn't do. There's the issue with this bill is that it says the government actually is the parent for all children in regard to their internet use. We're going to let you go online until you're 16, but parental discretion is not the part. We are going to be the parent. So that's the premise of the issue, is that the government has the responsibility to parent your children online. That's wrong. Parents have the responsibility. If there's a failing of parents, we need to address it at the level of the failure. And again, that's just, I think, the kind of the rational way to do an irrational thing, which is to require digital ID or facial recognition software every time you go online to link your use with yourself and essentially eviscerate your online privacy in that way. And that's killing a problem in a jurisdiction that isn't theirs, parenting children and in sacrificing the rights of all Canadians' privacy to do something that isn't their responsibility.
I'm gonna let you put your tinfoil hat on for a second here, and just you guys must talk. I mean, there's you, John, and a few other there's very few of you out there actually trying to defend Canadians' rights. Like, why focus on this so much? I mean, there seems to be so much emphasis on Canadians' rights and freedoms here, and I interviewed, I think, Lisa Diab as well. And where America has their like absolute right, their freedom of expression, and in Canada we continue to compress rights. It seems like that is the focus of this government: compression of rights here, more overlord, more oversight, and secret councils, secret things, secret commissions, and all that stuff. Instead of dealing with the issues, right? We have the lowest GDP per capita. We have a lot of priorities, like people dying in waiting for surgeries and that, and we also have there's just a multitude of issues here. 11% of the population below the poverty line, record numbers in food bank lineups. Why such a focus by this government on the suppression of freedoms and rights here in Canada?
Well, if your goal is to preserve your government's power rather than to preserve the prosperity of your people, this makes sense. Because what jeopardizes a government's power is the ability of those citizens to communicate freely, to protest freely on the issues that government is failing to do or doing wrongly. And I think we've seen the power of protest in this country, and we've seen the effects of it. But if you take the ability of Canadians to communicate away, and if, for example, with some of the online harms, if you start to get into what they talk about as extremism, what you're talking about is damage to infrastructure, property, that risks the safety or health of a population. You could see how you could restrict protests in a time of crisis, how the Freedom Convoy could have been shut down under that provision, and anyone talking about it online could have been censored at the risk of the social media companies being fined in massive ways. All of this, to me, looks like an attempt to ensure that the government in power can maintain that power without risk of the population being sufficiently upset through democratic processes like freedom of expression, protesting, communicating online. And you might call that a tinfoil hat, but what we are dealing with here is a really substantial attempt to censor the opinions of Canadians. And we've already seen it. I mean, during COVID, Jim, I have seen communications from the Public Health Department of Canada straight to Facebook saying, remove this tweet, remove this post, remove this social media expression that we don't like. Innocuous statements. That is the impulse of the government bureaucracy in this country. And we have a bigger bureaucracy than almost any country in the world. They're a powerful group. And why would they want to subject their continued actions to the criticism, sometimes very robust criticism, and sometimes very well-warranted criticism online? And yes, once you can stop non-public expression, you can pretty much stop the protests that go along with it. And we know that that's an essential right in a democracy. We won a case during COVID at the Ontario Court of Appeal. It's the first Court of Appeal case to consider the right in Canada to freedom of peaceful assembly, which is the right that finally gets your government's attention. Because once there's a protest in the streets, you got to pay attention. You either handle it like Iran does, or you have to make concessions. Well, maybe you can get ahead of it and just keep anyone from organizing that protest in the first place. This is not the thing of free societies. Censoring speech online, which is the public square in this day and age, is not the thing that free societies do. So I don't, some could call that a tinfoil hat. As a civil liberties lawyer, that's the reason these freedoms exist. Your government should not have the ability to maintain its power over the freedoms of its citizens. It should subject itself to democratic discourse. It should subject itself to a citizenry that can express its concerns with the government's actions and with their ideology and with their direction. But right now, our government seems very, very concerned, not with the prosperity of the people, but with policing their speech, which at the end of the day risks their power.
Iain and I have talked many times about the Freedom Convoy, and we said we likened it back to the old King days, where if you were a dissenter, they would cut your head off and put your head on a stick at the gate there to let the other people see what happens if you dissent. And that example is the bakery there in Victoria there that donated $250 and they froze their bank accounts, and then the media trotted that story out there and made sure the town criers got it out there to make sure other people realized that by supporting this this protest that you too could be put on a stick. And it seemed like the media was working with the government in that respect, and as town criers basically, in suppressing the rights, and you're not holding government accountable. Do you see the media in Canada, the mainstream media, the ones that are government funded, as part of the problem here in this suppression of rights?
Well, imagine getting hundreds of millions of dollars every year.
We can only imagine.
And acting against the one who gives you the hundreds of millions of dollars every year. I'm a lawyer. I'm funded by the voluntary donations of people to the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. We have a mandate as well that's to defend the constitutional rights and freedoms of Canadians. That is what I do. That is my job. And you'll expect to find me advocating for the constitutional rights and freedoms of Canadians. If the media is funded by the Liberal government of the day that encourages more and greater reliance on these subsidies, or the alternative governments would say, no, we should take away that government funding. Well, what team do you expect them to play on? And for the media itself, I mean, I have friends who are journalists. For the media to debase themselves to saying, yeah, we are the paid media of the federal government is quite a thing to do. That'd be like me saying, no, I am not going to be beholden to Canadians. I am going to take a government salary and I'll do my job just as effectively, but I'm all paid by the Liberal government. And if the Liberal government's not in power, well, then I lose my salary. Oh, well, what kind of an advocate would I be? Some would call that a conflict of interest, Jim, in fact.
You might want to put in some more rules, right? I want to turn you over to Iain for, I don't know if he's got a last question for you or a couple. Iain usually has a couple.
I've got a very minor, easy to answer question for you here. You mentioned the convoy a couple of times, and you also mentioned earlier that the courts, you're going to have to take it to the courts. That might be the final hope. And it just made me think while we were talking, Canada's most senior judge, Richard Wagner, not the musical one, but the other fella, the legal fella, quite infamously, I think, or has been accused of, at least, he's been accused of having prejudged the convoy. And he referred to them as anarchists, I believe, because he gave some quotes to a newspaper. And he then went on, amazingly, to pass judgment on people involved in the convoy, didn't he? So my question is, this very, very small question here. Can we, and do you, trust the judiciary in this country to get it right, ultimately, when it comes down to it, given the likes of Richard Wagner's, a mistake that he's been accused of making there and revealing his political leanings?
Well, Chief Justice Wagner has been criticized for his position that he took on the Freedom Convoy. He has now been asked to recuse himself from the hearing of the review of the Emergencies Act case. He declined to do that. And I will say that as a matter of law, I think he's wrong in that. And I respectfully criticize that decision. The standard in Canada for judges to recuse themselves is not whether or not you have prejudged the case. It's whether or not you your actions in regard to the matter give the public a reasonable apprehension of bias, that you have a reasonable apprehension. And I think that standard has been very clearly met in this case. And for Canadians to have the trust that you talk about, Iain, in our courts, we need to have judges who uphold the rule of law and are above reproach. And so you'll see, for example, that justices will recuse themselves from the consideration of some matters. One justice recently had to recuse herself from a case because they were reviewing a case that she decided when she was a lower court judge. But when you've made statements directly about a particular matter and about the actors in that matter, the reasonable apprehension of bias is crossed. I do want to comment, though, on the broader assumption that all judges, whether can we apply this to all judges? I don't believe you can. Every judge in Canada is a lawyer with sworn duties to uphold the Constitution of this country. And every time I go to the courts, I remind the judges of that duty. And I implore the judges in those cases to remind the government of their duty. And so, for example, in Nova Scotia, where we brought a rather controversial case on behalf of Mr. Evely, Jeff Evely, who courageously took a walk in the woods in order to challenge a law that he'd attempted to challenge before. Well, Justice Campbell looked at the requirements of the Constitution and he said to the Nova Scotia government, look, you didn't even try to respect the constitutional rights of all Nova Scotians. And he was rather robust in some of his comments, including warning how constitutional rights can slip, especially when governments try to justify those infringements with concerns of crisis. That's paragraph 5 of his decision. And so we need to continue to go to our elected representatives. We need to continue to go to the courts. And yes, speak out in the media, as you are doing, to educate and to use the democratic levers that we as Canadians have to uphold our freedoms. We should not throw in the towel. All is not lost. We have much work to do. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. And yes, we need to uphold those rights in every fora in which we have responsibilities. As lawyers, of course, we will continue to do so in the courts. Does that mean that you will sometimes find a judge who is prone to side with a government on a particular point, maybe ideologically, maybe because they were a Trudeau appointee, or even there's issues that they have prejudged in their own mind? Well, you are always calling them to uphold their oath and to respect the Constitution, regardless of that. And as trained legal professionals, you expect them, and I expect them, to uphold that duty. Are they doing it perfectly? No. But should we give up on the courts? No, we should not. In fact, we should double down and continue to insist that the constitutional rights of Canadians will be upheld. You can see that in the Emergencies Act case that our legal team had the privilege of supporting with evidence of people's bank accounts being frozen and their family members not being able to buy groceries and them being stranded. Like that evidence going before the courts, allowing individuals such as Justice Mosley, who literally said in the start of his decision, I would have upheld this had I not heard the arguments and seen the evidence in this case. He said that in his decision, because that's what a legal mind is supposed to do. And so, again, don't give up on the courts. In fact, when our legislators fail, when MPs cross the floor in defiance of all principles they've previously held and in a sellout of their own their own electors, well, if Parliament is failing you, the courts are still there. And if both are failing you, you have the right to express yourself, and you must express yourself. And if you then get prosecuted for expressing yourself, you better hope there's a lawyer who's there to defend you. And that's one of the privileges I have as a lawyer funded by the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, to be there to defend Canadians who are, exercising their rights in any of those fora.
Okay. So,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to slip in a little add-on. I mean, you can literally just say yes or no to this one. Would you, therefore, given what you've just said, would you agree with Doug Ford's proposal that judges be elected?
That is a longer discussion. I think, Iain, that I'm currently prepared to do. I think that idea potentially has merit in some regards, and there are issues with that. I should describe just the background. I practiced law in Illinois, where the state judges were elected and the federal judges are appointed by the president. There's 2 levels of court. And I can tell you that almost everyone in Illinois would run to the federal courts if they had any shred of federal jurisdiction in order to get a more fair hearing. And that's in the state of Illinois. But then again, that might say more about the politics of Illinois than it does about the quality of the lawyers writ large in Illinois. So there can be concerns on both sides, but I think what you want to see is competent judges with that are hired based on their merit and based on their commitment to the principles outlined in our Constitution, and all parties should rally around that, whether they're standing for election or not. I think the more important part is how and on what criteria are these people being elevated to the bench.
Yeah, and I think also in the United States, correct me if I'm wrong, there's some states that actually have judges that are elected that aren't even lawyers, that have no background in law.
I believe to certain levels of court that is a possibility. And I mean, we also have, justices of the peace and others in Canada. There's different levels of people who are deciding matters, and increasingly we're having tribunals where legal matters are being decided outside of the courts, and some of those individuals aren't lawyers either.
Interesting. I have a question for you on the convoy. The last question on the convoy is, I know that the Liberal government is appealing the decision, the appeal decision. So they've lost twice. They lost in the original court and lost in appeal court. Now they're appealing to the Supreme Court. And we're just looking for an update. Has the Supreme Court decided yet or whether or not they will hear that appeal?
I'm not aware that the Supreme Court has actually granted leave. I think the initial decision was whether or not the, Justice Wagner would be recused. And so I think that's the one that's drawn some attention at the Supreme Court level. But I'm not aware that that leave has been granted and that an appeal has been scheduled. But I could be wrong on that. I'm not the lawyer directly working.
I keep getting updates from John, and supposedly there's a window when they have to decide whether or not they'll actually hear the appeal. And you said it's pretty stringent to get that appeal as well. But
yeah, it's very, very rare for appeals to be granted. For example, we sought leave on half a dozen cases during COVID to the Supreme Court of Canada. We didn't get leave on a single one of those cases. And they were all, precedent-making cases. The Supreme Court didn't weigh in on a single COVID case until 2026, when it rendered a decision in the Taylor v. Newfoundland case.
So my last question, and our last question for today is, what can people do? I know that they can go to the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, jccf.ca, and they can help you guys with your work. But what else can Canadians do to kind of like fight back against this?
I think speaking up is certainly an element that needs to happen. You have elected representatives, whether you're in a Conservative, Liberal, NDP, Green riding, you should be very much raising your concerns. I understand that, for example, the NDP MLAs did not even vote on the motion to stop debate on Bill C-22, which is outlandish that elected representatives don't vote on whether or not they're allowed to debate the bill before them. So we need our MLAs to be very much engaged on this issue. Even if they've crossed the floor, they should be willing to hear their constituents on these points. Don't stop the democratic process. I believe the Justice Center actually has campaigns on their website that you can go to and engage in that process. Of course, as a legal team, we're very grateful to support from the Justice Center's donors to do the work that we do to prepare and to review this legislation. And at the end of the day, it does appear that some parts of it may be passed and may need to go to litigation. So that's a preparation that we're doing and speaking out about it as well. We do have elections in this country, thankfully. And so let's continue to speak out and educate the voting public, because if MLAs are voting in support of this, then there's accountability potentially at the ballot box near you in the days ahead.
Well, we do thank you, Marty, for sharing all that knowledge, and we'd love to have you on again as well. I mean, this is pretty scary, especially to me, one of the scarier ones is deciding which ones are the winners and losers. Like, they could actually just shut out X, and then they could just, say, well, you can use Blue Sky and different things, and where they can decide and do this in the background without anybody knowing what's going on. So if a guy like Elon Musk pushes back and says, I'm not giving you a back door, and he says, well, you're out. And we don't even get to push back on it because we don't even know what's going on.
The freedom of the internet and electronic communications in this country is at stake this week.
Thank you, Marty. We really appreciate that. And we'll let you go, and then Ian and I will finish up our show here. Thank you again for joining us here on the Really Big Show.
Grateful to be invited. Thank you.
Pretty scary stuff, eh?
Yeah, it is. It is rather frightening. I mean, again, it reminded me of Turkey. That's the kind of thing they do in Turkey, where they just basically make it impossible to talk about an issue. Obviously Russia would be another example, but I like the Turkey example because Turkey is actually quite it's quite a sophisticated country and culture. It's quite European in many ways, and yet they have a semi-authoritarian system there. So I think it's easier you look at that and you think, oh yeah, that could be us. Like we could end up having that kind of a system. It's not too strange a comparison.
Yeah, no, it's it does scare me on the deciding which outlets are allowed to continue. Like, I mean, basically, we're already shut out of Meta. Imagine shutting out X here in Canada. You know, they would love that. I mean, they've targeted X,
Well,
right?
I'm sure they've imagined that many times.
Yeah.
Late at night.
Social cohesion, right? Because it's for the better. It's for your own safety and our power, right? Because you stop complaining about Dr. Noma Meaners or Mona Nemers. She's got a weird name. Mona Nemers, expensive flights. And Alto. Like, stop complaining about Alto. It's $90 billion. Get over it, right?
Well, and if you do complain about it, then that just shows that you don't believe in Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
But we do.
Exactly. We're back tomorrow, and it'll be our final show for the for about a week, and we're gonna try. We'll try to put something in there. I might try to do some stuff out of the U.S. We'll see. Yeah, we'll figure that out, and then I'll be back in the following week, and I've got a bunch of interviews already lined up. But Iain won't be back for 2 weeks. You're gonna miss those beautiful locks, and when he comes back, I think he's doing a buzz cut too, aren't you? We'll leave you with this. It's International Sushi Day. I don't eat sushi. It's International Picnic Day. There you go. International Picnic Day. And it's Go Fishing Day. It's been a while since I've been fishing. And National Splurge Day. National Splurge Day.
Well, there you go. You can splurge on a fishing trip.
Splurge. Yeah, there you go. Open mic while you're gone so we can... Hey, why doesn't somebody from the show actually do the show? There you go. We get Diana and Heidi to do the show or something like that. My 2 cents. There you go. Thanks for everything, everybody. And we'll be back tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. PST with bells on. It'll be great. It'll be great. And we're here. Cheers. Until tomorrow, thank you for watching The Really Big Show. And all of us here at NowMedia, thank you. And we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. PST.